Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David, and welcome to our special edition Secrets of Human Influence program, Defense Against the Dark Arts of Persuasion and Manipulation. For the next 180 minutes or so, give or take, I'm going to be your host as we go on a journey together, a journey that involves the art and science of human influence, both ethical and honest approaches to human influence, but also the not so ethical and honest approaches to human influence. We chose Black Friday because it had black in the title, and obviously there's a lot of reasons why we want to be here today. But this webinar, most importantly, is about you. So I'm curious about something. I'm going to go through what I like to call my pregame warm-up. So if this is your first time checking in with us, we are streaming live to our Zoom and a couple other platforms out there. Before I get into what I lovingly call the Dr. David Dog and Pony Show, go ahead. If this is your first time checking in with us, please type first time in the chat, where you're checking in from, and your first name so we know who you are, and we can make sure that you get the best we have to offer for tonight. If you're a veteran of Planet David, you've been around for a little while, type in your name, where you're checking in from, and how long you've been a member of Planet David. I'm going to go ahead and open my vest because it's a little warm where I'm at right now. So do you guys all have a good turkey day? Y'all stuffed, watching football, doing whatever it is you do? Yeah, Jodian says, not exactly my first time, Seth likes to say. All right. I see a lot of familiar faces, and that's fine. All right. So Richard, about 6 years. Very good. All right. And we'll check in with our Zoomers shortly. In any event, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had that moment where you said, maybe you're talking to somebody, or, you meet somebody, or somebody comes up to you with the deal of a lifetime, and there's just part of you that says, something's not right, but you go ahead and you do it anyway. And then a week, 2 weeks, 6 months later, you're like, why the hell did I fall for that? Why the hell did I do that? Right? Maybe you walked away from a conversation, scratching your head, knowing something wasn't right. You couldn't put your finger on it. Or maybe, as is sometimes the case, somebody said all the right things, gave you all the right signals, and turns out they weren't the upstanding, fine, ethical person that you thought they were. True, not true, right? Today, we're going to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. We're going to talk about how these people operate. We're going to talk about the line, because we need to have one. When we talk about influence, we talk about persuasion, we talk about ethics. Ethics means different things to different people. And so we have to kind of decide for ourselves where that line is. So that's a little bit about where we're going to go tonight. Now, how many of you are checking in for first time? I know Teresa on YouTube is checking in for the first time. Jules from Unities, New York. Helen, Dujon, Crystal. Okay. How many of you are checking in? Let's see, where am I going to go with this? Let's start with the basic fundamentals first. First of all, if politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offend you, I have to watch that, because I think the censors are now, actually listening for me to say things like, if politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offend you, as one of their red flags. Because for some mysterious reason, one of my videos that was on the channel for like literally almost years suddenly just got banned for no reason whatsoever, and I can't, no matter how I change it. They don't seem to like that video. So I'm going to be careful with that. I may have to edit this out. If for some reason I can't monetize or promote this video, you'll know what happened. So tonight's webinar is all about defense against the dark arts. So my disclaimer once again, if politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, this is probably not the best time or the best use of your next 180 minutes. My webinars tend to go a bit long, because I really do believe that you deserve the very best I have to give, and you deserve to come away from a webinar not just with, oh, buy my stuff, it's Black Friday, buy my stuff, it's Black Friday, but an actual set of skills and tools that you can apply, that you can begin to put into work right away to do two things, really. The first one is to learn how to flag people who are employing unethical forms of influence or who may not be what they appear to be. The other is that you can actually use the tools of influence to ethically get people to want to do what you want them to do in a way that makes you feel good about who you are, doesn't cause you to feel slimy or creepy, and allows you to actually move through the world feeling good about everything you get, right? And that's kind of the story of my life, right? Edie says, never heard you use the word boobies in a Zoom, only in live classes. Thank you, Edie. Well, I do use them on Zoom because you heard me say it at least twice in the last 10 minutes, right? So that being said, here's how we're going to do this tonight. I've got so much information that I want to share with you from both sides of the spectrum. And tonight I want to give you as much actionable content as humanly possible. It's Black Friday. You could be out shopping. Instead, you're watching this webinar, and so I want to give you my very best. That being said, I may motherload you, right? Lottie says hi there, sweethearts. Brian Patterson says hi. Like having you listening. Excellent. So here's how this is going to go. We divide our webinar into 3 parts. The first part of our webinar is what we call the foundations phase, the fundamentals phase. These are things you absolutely have to know and understand. We're going to give you as much information as we can in the time that we have. We're going to lay foundations and things that you're going to need in part 3 of the webinar. We go from part 1 to part 2 of the webinar. We call this the leveling up phase. We're going to show you the programs and the packages and the different ways you have for leveling up the skill sets you've already learned in part 1, or the skill sets you may already have from other trainings or other life experiences and things of that nature. So from there, we're going to circle back at part 3, and we're going to build on the foundations we laid in part 1 of the webinar. And we're going to customize the content of tonight's webinar so that you get the exact information that you actually want to know more about. And to that extent, we're going to cover some things that I cover in every webinar. Why? Because they're fundamentals, and fundamentals are fundamentals for a reason. They're foundations. You can't move forward without them. If you don't have those foundations and fundamentals, you can't really get out of the gate. Okay? But then we're going to customize it. And that's where I say this webinar really isn't about Dr. David. This webinar is about you. It's about you moving through the world, writing your own ticket in an ethical and honest way that when you look in the mirror, you feel good about the person staring back at you. That allows you to be a more emotionally resilient, to be able to tell the good eggs from the not so good eggs, those kinds of things. Okay. So that being said, let's talk about some of the things we're going to be going through tonight. If you stay with me till the end of the webinar, not only am I going to show you the fastest, most powerful way to level up all of your persuasion and influence skills, I'm going to teach you how to recognize manipulation in real time before it has a chance to control you or get its hooks in you. There's what we call, one of my martial arts instructors used to say, you have three basic approaches to any encounter. You have early, on time, and late. So what does that mean in terms of, from a martial perspective? Someone's going to throw a punch at me, or someone's going to grab me. If I have a high enough level of awareness and perception, then I can see them getting ready to attack, and I can avoid the fight completely, right? I'm early. But sometimes I don't see it coming, right? Or sometimes they move to attack me right at the time I become aware of it, and my technique comes up, and I counter, and I'm on time, right? I've intercepted the punch or the grab or whatever it is that's going to attack me. I've caught it. I'm on time. I'm in time with the attack, right? And now we're fighting, right? But sometimes we're late. Sometimes we're walking along doing our own thing, and all of a sudden the knockout games come out of nowhere, and now you're staggered, right? You're trying your best to kind of get your equilibrium back. We're late. My hope, my intention for you by the end of this webinar is to show you ways to, at the very worst, be on time, if not to be early, to see these things coming before they have a chance to grab a hold of you, or much worse, to wreak havoc in your life. I'm curious. I want to teach you a little bit more also about something that is very, very important if you're going to learn to protect yourself against unethical influence of any kind. And that is emotional resilience. You see, one of the things that people keep not quite understanding is that if you want to be manipulation proof, you need you need several things to be in place. A, you need a high level of awareness. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that awareness idea as we move through the webinar, right? But you also need a high level of emotional resilience. You got to be tough, mentally, physically, emotionally, as tough as you can be, right? Now, that doesn't mean you need to be the next MMA champion or you need to be able to bench press 200 pounds or whatever, but it does mean that you need to have a certain level of ability and the ability to take up a blow mentally, or physically, or emotionally, or to give one, right? And this is something that a lot of people don't really want to hear about. We talk about creating safety and having a safe place and all these things. But the simple truth is that nobody's coming to save us. This is the one thing that I learned very, very dramatically when I was going through my systemic training, which I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to go through my pedigree so you guys understand I'm not just blowing smoke and where a lot of this information actually comes from. One of the things that they taught us right off the bat, they had us wrap our head around going into any altercation, is no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. So if that's true, worst case scenario, nobody's coming to save you. How do you prepare? How do you develop the awareness and the perceptual capacity? And there's a bunch of things that go into that. We're going to talk about a bunch of those tonight. How do you build emotional resilience? How do you what are the practices that you need to have in order for you to take yourself off the menu? What are the things that actually erode your emotional resilience, your emotional toughness? And how can you start to remove those things from your life so that you start becoming just automatically stronger? Does this make sense, what I'm getting at? If you're with me so far, type I'm with you in the chat, just so I understand. Cool. Jax is with you. Cool. Excellent. Good. All right. And then the final thing I want to talk about is maybe this is the core of it all, but maybe not. And that is, how do you define your boundaries? What's your line in the sand? What's your, how do you align the decisions you're being asked to make, the choices you're being asked to give, that are in alignment with your own sense of what is right and wrong for you? I just finished a mega retreat with my high-level elite students, and and they're actually working now on becoming Golden Path facilitators. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Golden Path is an advanced approach or an advanced application of Chinese face reading and face reading for fun and profit, which we're going to talk a little about in this class, where you learn how to look at somebody and extract their life mission, their innate talents and abilities and skills, and put all these things together into a profile that allows you to help a person chart the life direction that is going to be most self-actualizing and fulfilling to them. There's a little bit of a spiritual side to it. There's a little bit of an energetic and behavioral and emotional side to it. There's a whole lot of what we call Jing training, which is all about your potentials and your talents and skills and abilities from the time you were born all the way up to now. And the reason that I bring that up isn't because I want to sell you a face reading class, although we do have one coming up in December. If you're interested in anything I just said, you might want to take a look at jumping in on that class. However, one of the most important things about Ming, or a Golden Path, is exactly the same thing we're going to talk about in this training tonight. And that is your own personal sense of right and wrong. What are your values and your emotional needs? And how do you know when those needs are being met or when they're being violated? And especially if you're someone or if you've ever encountered any of these high-level persuasion predators out there, how do you know when somebody's using your very own values against you? Right? So there's three things that we need to start focusing on to become more manipulation proof. The first is, how do you recognize manipulation for what it is? right? Are you going to be aware? Are you going to be on time? Are you going to be are you going to be early? Or are you going to be late? How do you build that emotional toughness so no one can push your buttons ever again? Now, if you've ever been to our Killer Influence training, you know that there's no other trainer on the planet that devotes more time to how to make you basically bulletproof emotionally than we do in Killer Influence. Okay. And then finally, how do we align with our core values? And how do we know when our values are being met? How do we know when they're being violated? And how do we know when somebody's attempting to use our values against us? Does that make sense? If you stay with me until the end of tonight's webinar, I promise you, I'm going to give you master keys for moving the needle forward in your life for that effect. Would that make a change? Would that make a difference in anybody's life? This is, by the way, if this is your first time with me, I'm a teacher who thrives on feedback. So the more interactive you are with me, at the risk of pulling me into different rabbit holes and stuff like that, the better off we are. Now, here's the upside of this. There's lots of upsides, but here's the best part. Not only am I going to share those things with you, I'm also going to show you some of the most powerful, irresistible, ethical, and honest ways to influence any human being to want to do what you want them to do without ever having to lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, exaggerate, or confabulate in any way, shape, or form. Would that be helpful? If you could just move through the world making everyone you meet want to do what you want them to do and have them feeling absolutely good about having encountered you. Would that be desirable? That's on the menu too. So that being said, if this is the scope of everything that there is to talk about, right? Even if I just skimmed over a lot of it, right? We've got time for this. So my promise to you, right? My promise is that I will take you as far down this rabbit hole as humanly possible. And I'll point you in the direction of where to go to level those skills up if that's something that is important to you. Is that a fair trade? You believe that's a fair trade? It's like, that's fair, I'll do that. Perfect. You guys are great. Thank you so much for that. That being said, I really want to thank you guys for coming out. I didn't expect to have as many people as we've got because of it being Black Friday and all. But without any further ado, let's jump into the Dr. David Dog and Pony Show, as I like to call it. So let me go into my PowerPoint just for a few minutes here. So first and foremost, I am in fact an actual doctor. I graduated from my first medical school in 2005 from the Southern California University of Health Sciences. I then went on to get my doctorate in acupuncture and Chinese medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. You can see my diploma right here. I just completed a second doctorate in Taoist Chinese energetic medicine, which we'll talk about very shortly. You may have seen some emails that I sent out. In 2020, I was named the #1 NLP trainer of the year by globalgurus.org. I've been the top 2 NLP trainer in the world for the last at least 6 years, probably closer to 8 years. And the best part is that the content that you're going to learn tonight is derived from something even cooler. This is a letter from Global Gurus, and I have several of these. I just use this one as an example. This says, Dr. David, it is with great pleasure to announce that your training program, Killer Influence, has been chosen by global peers and ranked as the #1 best program in the world for NLP. And you can see that here. If you click that link, you go to a page that looks kind of like this. Now, what's really cool is this says 2020, but we have been the #1 NLP training program in the world 2021, 2022, and 2023. With your vote, we're going to make Killer Influence the #1 NLP program in the world again for 2024 and 25. Now, the best part is the Killer Influence program, Defense Against the Dark Arts, the exact content we're going to be talking about tonight, was also named the #1 NLP training program for the last 2 years. So these are both derivatives of our Killer Influence program. Just so you know where a lot of this is coming from. Some of you know my history, some of you don't, but it's important to know where I'm coming from. I've authored over 15 different products on various forms of human influence, personality profiling, human influence techniques, hypnosis, energy healing, vibrational influence, remote influence. I've done a lot, guys. And you can find those courses on our website. I've been a lifelong martial artist. So a lot of this content that I'm sharing with you tonight is actually really, really close to my heart because I've always been in my heart a self-defense teacher. I've always believed in being able to protect oneself, but also in moving through the world, being a protector of others as opposed to a predator of others. So I have a 10th degree black belt in an art called Ryukyu Kempo Karate. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kung Tao, a 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo Ryu, a 1st degree black belt in Fankuru Jiu Jitsu. I'm also a certified instructor in Combat Sistema, Cinco Mano Eskrima, and Modern Arnis. And as I like to say, I have more energy healing credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. I've been a Reiki master and teacher since before Reiki was cool. I've been studying Kabbalah since before Madonna ever heard of Kabbalah. So I'm very much a prima donna. I have an advanced pranic healing certificate and certification in pranic psychotherapy from the Pranic Healing Association, Master Choa Koksui and Master Stephen Ko. I'm certified in the DNA theta healing and manifestation techniques, Bengston energy healing, and I just finished my 2nd doctorate in Chinese energetic medicine, which is basically Chinese medical shamanism as applied to cancer, multiple sclerosis, and all types of different energetic psychology and things of that nature. So it's really cool. Now, when people see all these things and we look at the content of tonight's webinar, people are like, what? What the heck does all this have to do with defending yourself against the dark arts? Well, actually, it's not that much of a leap to see, but what all these things have in common is the exact same thing that we're going to start your training with, and that is pattern recognition and the ability to control your state. And remember that at the beginning of the webinar, I said you need emotional resiliency, and that is state control. The ability not just to become bulletproof, but how do you recover? How do you get back to emotional equilibrium after somebody's knocked you off your game? Right? How many of you have ever, James Barwick says, and a very snappy dresser. Why, thank you, James. I appreciate that. Right? But this is one of the most important things. You're not always going to see it coming. You're not always going to have the choice about whether to get emotional or not, at least not right away. Until you've developed your awareness to the point where you become so unreactable or reactant, a lot of what your emotional resilience training is going to be covering is how do you recover? How do you get your emotional state back under control so that you can function effectively in those moments of high stress and high arousal? And we talk about high stress and high arousal, that can be positive or negative, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit, right? The other is pattern recognition. The beautiful thing about all of us is that we're all, as I like to say, we're all precious little snowflakes. We're all different, but not that much. The truth of the matter is, we as human beings, regardless of your gender, regardless of your race, regardless of what geography you're from, we're all more alike than we are different. And because of that, when we start looking at the patterns that human beings engage in, it's very easy, if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, what patterns of dysfunction look like, patterns of antisocial tendencies look like. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk a bit about in tonight's webinar, right? If I have a chance, we'll talk about sociopaths, we'll talk about narcissists, we'll talk about what we call Machiavellians, and often the dreaded psychopathy and dark triads, which we'll talk about as well. So what does all this have to do with influence, persuasion, and psychological self-defense? Well, as you can probably figure, pretty much everything, right? So that being said, we all know, Annabelle says, just overcame one today. Right on. So here's my question for you. How many of you would like to be, obviously, just by a show of hands, how many of you have ever encountered manipulation? How many of you have ever been manipulated? Let's make it even more basic. How many of you have been lied to? How many of you have ever been betrayed? How many of you have ever been cheated on? Right? If you've answered yes to at least 2 of these, then welcome to the club. You're all human, right? But wouldn't it be nice to kind of turn the tables on these people? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just spot them before they have a chance to get their claws in you? right? But wouldn't it also be just as nice to be able to move through the world having everybody like you, to trust you, to believe in you, to follow your lead wherever you go? What would that mean if you never heard the word no again? How would that change your life? Think about it for a moment. What if you had the ability to literally speak a few key words at somebody and they go into this profound pleasure state and focus where all they can hear is what you're saying, and they're hearing what you're saying in exactly the way they've always wanted to hear it. Betty says a little boring and a loss of a challenge. I'll take that bet. You may discover no backstabbing for power is good for good. All right, good, because that's what today's about. Right? We're going to show you how to move through the world being charismatic, to get everything you want, helping everybody else get what they want, to move from a place of lack and fear and trepidation to a place of possibility and acceptance and moving through the world with a really open heart. Okay? So let's go ahead and go back to my webinar. Okay. So if you stay with me today, in addition to the things I showed you, we're going to teach you how to avoid. We're also going to teach you some of the fastest, most powerful, and ethical ways to influence anyone, anytime, to like, love, trust, and obey you. We're going to teach you how to have people hanging on your every word, how to salivate, have them salivating to do what you want them to do, control emotions, remove resistance, and give the exact steps you need to go from interesting information to lasting transformation. So let's start with the first one. I teased you a little bit, right? I told you, what if there was a few magic words that you could say that would cause people to just, in a nice way, go into a trance? Like they would just be so focused on you, listening and hanging on every word that you said, that you could just command attention everywhere you went. Would that be useful? This means yes. This means no. Okay, good. So we're going to start with two things right off the bat. The most important driver of human behavior and how to hack it. So here's the most important driver of human behavior. Write this down. If you've heard it before, you're going to hear it again. If you haven't heard it before, this is what you need to embody and embrace and understand. Everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. Back in May, I taught a course called NLP Ultra. It was the most advanced persuasion program I have ever taught. We taught stuff that is pure black ops material so that you would know how to protect yourself against it. Okay? But here's one of the things that we basically made everything, all the different NLP, this and that nomenclature and all the confusing stuff for the behavioral sciences world, we distilled down into a very, very simple understanding. Everything is feeling driven, and the feelings that are driving people are either moving them towards more of the feelings they want or away from the feelings they don't want. So you have feelings, towards, and away from. That's your driver. Are you guys with me so far? The people who are going to move through the world seeking to manipulate you, that's how they're going to do it. They're going to generate feelings in you that move you towards the things that you want, or at least you believe you want. And they're going to stimulate the things that make you feel bad if you're not moving in the direction they want you to move. They're going to bounce you between towards and away from. Now, lest you think this is something only predatory people do, everyone's doing this. Everyone operates the same way. The difference is a predator is going to do it. He's going to look for a very specific psycho-emotional type. And he's going to target that. We're going to talk in part 3. We'll probably talk about victimology. How do these people sort for their victims, right? And how do you take yourself off the menu? But one of the things that has to be in place is you have to have the awareness of who you are and what you believe in and how you know what's right and wrong. Because one of the ways that people will start to get you to fudge your values is they'll change the rules that you use to satisfy them. Okay, so The person sets up an agenda, they're going to love. How many of you have heard the term love bombing? Okay. When they're moving you in they're going to get you hooked on good feelings, right? And then they're going to present you with a set of behaviors and a set of rules and a set of cultural norms or things they want you to do. And as long as you keep doing them, you're going to get the love. You're going to get the good feelings. You're going to get all those positive things. But all the while, that person who's giving you all those good feelings is going to be profiling you. They're going to be looking for the places you're neurotically vulnerable. Let me say that. Every normally socialized human being on the planet is relatively normally socialized. They have a decent level of neuroticism. But people who are hypersensitive, are overly self-conscious, who are higher on that neuroticism scale, they're going to be easier to manipulate because they're going to have a stronger reaction to the negative stimuli. They will go up and out of their way to make those feelings go dissolve. Does that make sense? So everything that we're talking about is about this idea of feelings towards and away from. Now, some people are going to move through the world orienting on the things they want and moving away from the things they don't want. Other people are going to be oriented on moving away from the things that they don't like and towards the things they do like. This is a very basic NLP-ish understanding, but it's important for you to understand it because everything that is going to press your buttons is going to fall into one of those two categories. And what you need to do is you need to have a strong enough sense of self and awareness and perception to know who you are, what you believe in, and where your lines are. And you have to have the emotional resilience to say no, in spite of mounting levels of negative reinforcement. Are you guys with me so far? This means it. Is this useful? Okay. So let's talk about how we can ethically begin to generate feelings in people ethically and honestly that is actually the way they're geared to want to be communicated with. So out in the world, the most powerful words any human being can hear at any given moment are the words that just came out of their mouth. We call this the echo technique. Now, this particular approach to communication has been verified, validated, and documented from multiple disciplines and multiple times in multiple geographies. Okay, the echo technique is very, very simple. To use the exact words a person uses that just came out of their mouth as you respond to them. So if someone says to me, "Hey, David, I'm glad. It's so good to see you. I'm glad I got to finally meet you." "Hey, man, it's good to see you too. I'm glad I finally got to meet you." Right? It was literally that quick. Now, what happens on a neurological level when you start using this particular process is those words have certain neurological associations connected to certain emotional memories. Lee says it's a type of mirroring. Yes, but it's a verbal mirroring, and it's the most accessible, it's the most useful, and it's the most universal. Now, why is this true for us? I want you to think about this. I don't want to get too heavy on jargon and the theory and the science behind this, but this is the best metaphor that I have for you guys. I want you to think of the words that come out of a person's mouth like they are a key that has been ground and filed and shaped to pass through every lock that a person has at different levels of their emotional memory and experience and things of that nature. Does that make sense? If you think about something that's passed through filter after filter after filter, what comes out on the other end is something that will easily go back through all those filters. And that's exactly what words do for us. When somebody speaks to you, there are layer upon layer upon layer of emotional meaning, memories, values, needs, brain sequences that are connected to that sequence of words. When you give a person their very own words back, you refire and re-trigger all of that neurology, all of that biology, all of that chemistry, all of those memories and neurological associations, they get fired and wired together as they're looking at you. And so what happens is you send a very, very powerful signal of sameness to the person who's just spoken to you. And what happens is human beings are moving through the world, sorting people into same and different. Same and different, same and different, same and different, same and different. And they gravitate towards the things that are the most like them inside. Okay? We call this the identification principle. When someone finds somebody that resonates with them wholly and completely, they orient on that person to the exclusion of everything else. How many people here have ever heard of something called an OODA loop, an OODA loop? Go ahead, type it in if you know what that is. If not, I'm going to explain it to you in a minute. Okay. This is something for those of you who are interested in defending yourself against the dark arts or physical martial arts for that matter. An OODA loop, OODA stands for observe, orient, decide, act. So when we're in the observation mode of the OODA loop, we're just cruising through the world like a sonar. We're just scanning. Then something pings our own personal social radar, our own personal emotional radar, our own personal ideological or values radar. And we recognize something pings us, and all of a sudden, all of our awareness goes, and we focus on that to the exclusion of everything else. And we start analyzing it more. We start making decisions. Yes, like me, not like me. Like me, not like me. Not like me, not like me. And the more boxes we check, the more sameness we see, the more comfortable we feel. How many people would like to move through the world making, not only being comfortable in your own skin, but having everyone you meet feel comfortable and open and willing to interact with you? Would that be a useful thing? Yes, right? This is the fast track for doing that. Now, do you need to know all the neuroscience for this to happen? No, you just need to understand that the most powerful words any human being can hear at any given moment are the words that just came out of their mouth. Okay? Now, once you understand that, what we're going to do is we're going to use that. We're going to build on that. We're going to deliver our conversation. We're going to deliver our messages from within that structure, right? So when you do this with somebody, you're going to signal very, very powerful messages of sameness with that person. You're going to trigger them to want to speak more. How many people here, two questions. How many people here have used this echo technique out in the real world? Type me in the chat if you've used this before. If this is your first time and you haven't used it, type never used it in the chat. Perfect. Now, what are some, for those of you who've used this technique, when you deploy this technique, what happened? While they're typing in the chat, I'm going to tell you what happened. You monopolized a person's attention. You may notice they started talking more and more. The conversation flows better, right? You'll find when people naturally fall into rapport, they automatically do this a little bit. But if you intentionally do it, it signals sameness to that person. You'll see the barriers to intimacy start to drop. They'll orient on you, so they'll stop focusing on anything else. And then what will happen is they'll start self-disclosing. They'll start telling you more. You'll see their pupils dilate. You'll see their blink rate slow down. You'll see more and more unconscious head nods. Why? Because they're getting the messages they're sending out coming back. They're feeling validation because of this communication. And validation, my friends, is one of the single most important feelings a human being can experience. It's the one that we all say we want to be loved. We all want to feel comfort and connection. Along with that goes the sense of being accepted, approved of, understood, heard, seen. We call those things validation. And so when a person gets their own words back to them, they go into validation seeking mode. And when you continue to feed them their very own words back, They go deeper and deeper and deeper into connection. Why? Because this is exactly the way human beings have evolved to want to be communicated with. It sounds completely weird to say that, but when you use the echo technique the way I'm sharing it with you, people will naturally hang on your every word. They will self-disclose more and more and more information to you so that you can create a better profile of that person. The more robust a profile of that person you create, the more accurate that profile is, the more you can start to predict their behaviors in certain situations. And because you're establishing a very powerful open baseline, we're going to talk about that in a minute, anytime they deviate from that baseline, it will flag itself. Okay, so let's talk about this idea for a moment. We're using the echo technique, A, as a bridge to communication, a bridge to deeper rapport, a bridge to validation-seeking behavior, a bridge to priming people to give you more information. Angel says, and then you can't shut them up. Yes. And that, for a profiler, which is what this class is, by the way, this class is teaching you how to profile, how to look at a human being's behavior, the patterns of thought, the patterns of physical activity, posture, breathing, the patterns of words coming out of their mouth, and use those and put them together to create a prediction of who they are and what they're going to do, whether everything's matching up or whether it isn't. Does that make sense? If you're with me so far, type it in the chat. Okay, so again, the echo technique to me, now I named it the echo technique, but I certainly did not invent this idea. I learned this back in the early 90s from one of my mentors, Kenrick Cleveland. I named it the echo technique, but many other well-known influence professionals have discovered something, this principle, which we call the identification principle, by the way. David Grove, in his studies on clean language, came across this same idea. Alexander Penland from the University of Stanford, in his studies of honest signals and nonverbal communication, found out that mimicry equals enhanced influence. Chris Voss, most of you have heard of Chris Voss, the author of Never Split the Difference, and his tactical empathy and tactical mirroring techniques is all about using a person's very own words. Okay, so this is something that is not, and Wendy Patrick, in her book Red Flags, which we'll talk about, talks about the identification principle. We call the identification principle. So this principle that people sort for themselves, okay, is what the identification principle is about. Now, it's not politically correct. It shouldn't be this way, but it is. And if you're not willing to accept the way the world is, you're not going to have the ability to make it what you want. And if you try, you're going to work a lot harder than you need to. Okay? So I want you to understand that the way we hack this identification principle in an ethical, honest way is by using a person's very own words and working from within those words to mine for more information so that we can make better decisions. So what are we actually looking for when we start mining them for information? How do we know if someone's being truthful or not? Well, the first thing that has to happen is we have to study a little bit about body language. One of the things that was not in my bio, which I'm going to share with you now. First and foremost, I've had a fascination with body language and behavior ever since I was this high. I was, some of you know this, some of you don't. I was the classic bullied kid. I grew up the son of an abused child. I wouldn't necessarily, I was abused, although in retrospect, a lot of the things that I went through might be considered abusive, but my father did the best he could with the upbringing that he had. And he was definitely, came from a family of abuse, which we won't talk about. But I have those scars. I have that generational trauma. Plus, I had a very sensitive nervous system growing up. I was bigger around than I was tall. I didn't understand human social interaction, right? I actually had a petition to graduate from my high school early because I was trying to dodge the bullies waiting for me at the bus stop. Okay, this is, again, things I don't normally talk about, but it's true, right? This is very important stuff to me. And so I became very, very driven to figure people out. So when I went through my undergraduate education, I was on a criminal justice track. I grew up watching Quincy and behavioral profilers and stuff like that. And I was there, man. I was in my undergrad. I had the criminal justice track and I had the pre-med track, right? And I actually trained in kinesic interview and interrogation in high school, and I aced the class, right? I loved it. But when I looked at the stress level and the income level of the average police officer, I promptly chose healthcare, right? But I never lost my love for this understanding. Obviously, the NLP, the hypnosis, all these other things. Also, I was one of the very first people to achieve a master in behavioral engineering and behavioral influence from Chase Hughes' ABR Applied Behavior Research Labs back in 2019. Right, I've been doing that stuff, and so this is my wheelhouse, so to speak. And so one of the things that I really, really love is this idea of understanding the principles of kinesic interview and interrogation. And that's where, if we're going to evaluate body language, we have to be able to have a high degree of certainty and confidence in what we're doing. The echo technique is going to figure very, very prominently in that. But let me give you some of the other things that we need first. First of all, there's something we call baselines. In order to determine if someone is who they say they are, or if someone is potentially deceptive, right? Remember I said we're going to talk about how to recognize manipulation. We have to know when what they're saying is not in alignment with what they're doing. When the facts and the expression don't line up, right? So we call this a baseline. One of the reasons I love the echo technique, one of the reasons, aside from everything else I've told you, is that the more you use the echo technique with another human being, the more comfortable with you they become. The deeper into rapport they fall. Now, why, as a behavioral profiler, why might that be useful? This is the interactive portion. Answer that for me. Why might that be useful? JT says, I've been checking out your work for years. Yep. To protect me? Okay. All right, but Annabella, let's dig a little bit deeper now, though. To protect me, how? How specifically is this going to protect me? All right, Nan says to get them to reveal more. Absolutely. But here's the problem. And again, you're not wrong, but it's not the answer I'm looking for. To get information about the incident. Yes, emotionally. Okay, so I'm glad you're engaged, and that's great. So here's the thing. In order to evaluate deviance, and what do I mean by deviance? I don't mean somebody who's, likes animals or weird things like that from LA or whatever part of the world you're from. I'm talking about change from what they normally do. We call this a baseline, right? What do they normally do? What are they normally like? And when do they deviate from what's normal for them? When do they deviate? When do they go from being very relaxed to a little stressed? When do they go from being super relaxed to being super stressed? And can I perceive that difference? Can I perceive it, right? How many of you have heard of something called micro expressions? Okay. So micro expressions are little tiny facial movements or micromuscular movements in the face that happen when a person is experiencing an emotion that they're trying to conceal, right? If you ever watched the show Lie to Me, great show. First couple seasons are awesome. Last season had a little bit of problems because the writers of the show were trying to take licenses with some of the Paul Ekman's work, who, by the way, is the leading authority on face reading, on facial cues and deception, right? Kuda says, I'm watching from England. Hey, UK, right? All right, so When I start using the echo technique with somebody, and I'm doing it well, they're going to start becoming much more attentive. They're going to become more comfortable. They're going to go into positive neurological arousal and connection with me. When that happens, their defenses, their psychological and emotional defenses, start to turn off. They start to turn off. And you start to see more and more of who this person really is. Now, if you were to ask a question that strikes them or makes them nervous or anxious, you will see a radical shift in their microexpressions. You will see a radical shift in their blink rate. You will see a radical shift in their pupil dilation. You will see a radical change in their facial coloration. They will all change within a second or two of that question being asked. And if you're paying attention and you've created that baseline, when that happens, when that deviates from the baseline, you'll see it. You'll hear it, and you'll know, oh, something just changed inside their mind and body. Something just shifted. And you can almost guarantee, depending on what happens next, that that shift is going to be a body feeling, and it's going to be towards something or away from something. Are you with me so far? If you're with me, this is the pop quiz portion. Type in the principles and what we're doing here with the echo technique. Everything human beings do is in response to A. That feeling is either going to be towards or away from. The echo technique is going to generate positive, relaxing feelings. That's going to resolve their defenses, which is going to move their baseline further and further towards relaxation and comfort, as well as interest. From that point on, you now have, this is what they're like when they're attentive and they're relaxed and they're comfortable, so that anytime you say or do something that moves them out of comfort, the deviance will flag. Does that make sense? So Gerald says, you're repeating the words someone just said to you in order to increase neurological arousal. You are increasing their neurological arousal, but you're increasing it in what we call a eustress kind of a way. In other words, they're experiencing positive stress. So you'll get different body language indicators. And then what will happen is they become more as their defenses go down and they become more open, you'll see a lot more body language indicators of relaxation and comfort. And that's what we want. Okay. So LS is asking, are there any types of people that this does not work on? Very, very few. Very, very few. They're on the extreme ends of the spectrum. I would say that people who are high on the sociopathic spectrum, psychopathic spectrum, you may get paradoxical expressions, but they'll flag in different ways. That's not what this course is about. This course is about what the vast majority of people do, so that you can get that out of the way and then focus on the really deviant ones. Right? Lee says, ding, ding, ding. Okay, thank you. Just asking. Yeah, there are certain psychological types that will not flag for certain types of emotion. They'll be good at mimicking them, which is what you got to watch out for. Right? We haven't talked about sociopathy yet or psychopathy. But what you'll notice, but one of the words that gets, let's talk about the N word for a minute. And when I say the N word, what the word I'm talking about is called narcissist. Remember that the human nervous system is inherently narcissistic. It's just a question of degree. So when we start talking about narcissists, we use the term narcissist. We tend to use the term narcissists as a catch-all phrase for anybody that does something we don't like. Right? We have to be very careful about that. Every human being has a nervous system that is inherently selfish. Okay? People always do things that are in their own best interest, and that's modified by their values and what's socially acceptable. This technique will work on even the most extreme cases of narcissism, not necessarily sociopathy or psychopathy, although those two traits tend to go together. And the reason I say that is because everybody's favorite topic is always themselves. Manipulating narcissists is actually, and turning the tables on them is actually quite easy once you understand their psychology, right? This will get you in the door. This will allow you to open up any narcissist you encounter and begin to profile them so you know how to navigate that relationship and that interaction, right? And this is why I'm spending a lot of time on this basic idea that everything human beings do, including people on the narcissistic spectrum, are moving towards and away from things, feelings. They're either feelings, nothing more than feelings, right? They're going to move towards the things they want and away from the things they don't want. If you can engineer that communication so they get that perception of moving towards this gets them what they want, they will do what you want very, very enthusiastically. And the inverse is also true. If you can get them to experience enough pain from doing something you don't want them to do, they will move away from that. They're very predictable that way. And the nice thing about narcissistic psychology is it's very cut and dry. It's all about them to such a degree that it's almost not fair if you understand this process. Okay, when sociopathy and psychopathy and Machiavellianism start getting entered and factored into the interaction, now you have to be able to have a little bit more on the ball. Does that make sense? Okay, so has this been useful so far? This means yes. Okay, so remember, in order to calculate deviance, in other words, when they do something different, you have to know what they do normally. The fastest way to get somebody into a very, very quantifiable baseline is to make them feel as comfortable as humanly possible, as engaged as humanly possible. The fastest way to do that is by using the echo technique, their very own words. You don't have to copy their posture. You don't have to match their breathing. You don't have to blink at the same rate that they do, although those things can work. The fastest, most powerful way to get someone to synchronize with you is through their words. It's the fastest, it's the most controllable, it's the most measurable, and it's something that you can always come back to when things go south. If you ever say something wrong, or you're going in the conversation starts to go in a different direction, you can take those words and redirect them. Okay? But it's going to create for you a situation with this individual that allows you to profile and observe them as they change. And the byproduct of that is that they're going to become progressively more connected and trusting and liking of you the longer they talk. In fact, you don't have to say a whole lot. The longer they talk, the more attracted to you they get. That's another one of the pleasant side effects of this particular interaction or this particular technique, is that the longer they talk, the more connected to you they become. And one of the reasons for that, aside from everything else I just talked about, Lee says you can't get rid of them. That's true. That's why you have to always be testing and profiling. You have to always be making sure that the person you're dealing with is actually emotionally stable and somewhat sane. Okay? All right. So that being said, questions about the echo technique and why we're using it. Jack says no. Anybody else? Okay. Let me see here really quick. All right. Lee says love it. Betty says pretty clear. Okay. So do we understand everything human beings do is in response to a feeling they either want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. We know that those feelings are going to come and fall into two basic spectrums, towards and away from. Jim is asking, how does this tie into three magic questions? 3 magic questions is the next phase of applying the echo technique for profiling purposes. So 3 magic questions, which if you want, we can cover that a little bit in part 3 of the webinar, if that's something if that's the direction you guys want to go. Or we can talk about indicators of deception, or we can talk about resistance removal, or we can talk about victimology, or we can talk about, all of this is from our Defense Against the Dark Arts training program. Obviously, I don't have time to teach you everything, but I can drill down into one of those areas and give you some really powerful information. So I want you guys to think about what I just said as I'm talking about this. So you guys decide where you want to go. Do you guys want to look at victimology? How do these predators sort for victims? Do you want to look at the top 15 lie detection cues that people give? Do you want to look at the 3 magic questions, which is a profiler's wet dream, pardon my French? You want to learn what the resistance removal would be? Okay, it's really up to you. How can you tell when someone uses the echo technique to manipulate you? One of the first things that's going to happen is they're going to probably have a disconnect very, very, very often. They're going to have a disconnect between the body language and the tonality that they're expressing versus the words coming out of their mouth. Now, let me explain that a little bit, because that was a really good question. Who asked that question? Hold on a second. I just saw a question. Okay. NR says, how can you tell when someone uses the echo technique to manipulate you? The way you tell, and again, if the person has a method acting background, this gets even harder. But here's how you tell. If somebody comes at you and they use your words, but they feel false, there's something off about them. That's usually an indication that the person is not feeling comfortable with what they're saying, or in some way they don't believe what they're saying. So let me explain how to use this ethically first, so you never get caught, and then you'll understand the unethical flagging part of it. There's 2 ways that you can view this echo technique. Okay? The first one is the one that manipulators will come from. It's where you come from with the technique that flags you a lot of times. You can think of the echo technique as a technique, a way for me to get somebody to fall into rapport so that they open up with me, so that I can get their information, so that I can manipulate them in the way I want. That's a very transactional, very cold, manipulative approach. Then there's the other way that I'm encouraging you to use this, and that is this. The echo technique is, neurologically speaking, the most desirable way for one human being to be communicated with by another human being. Don't believe what I say. You don't have to believe anything I'm telling you. Go test it. But if you view it as a technique, it'll ring false to you. But if you understand that when you operate from this sincere desire to know, understand, connect, and communicate with this person, and you're coming from that place, then everything you say will be in alignment, because the body feelings that you're moving through the world in will be sincere and true and strong. When your body feelings are correct, your posture and your breathing are automatically correct. When your posture and your breathing are automatically correct, your tonality, tempo, and volume are automatically correct. And then when the words and the nonverbals that express them match up, you have this massive influx of positive, what's the word? What did the psychologists call it? Positive self-regard, or anyway, the person is flooded with all of these good feelings. And so are you. And so you fall into this deep rapport with this person. Now, how many of you are familiar? How many of you are familiar with something called pickup and seduction, or the pickup and seduction community? Any of you? Have you heard of it before? Okay. How many of you have ever heard of the term peacocking? Okay, Lee says yes, Nan says yes. So what is peacocking? Peacocking, the theory behind peacocking, and it's based on this idea of the male peacock and the female the peahen, right? The peahen is very plain, very brown, just very black compared to the male, who's all up in your grill. They have all these fancy plumages and feathers and hey, look at me kind of stuff, right? Well, the idea was derived from watching animals and translated into the pickup and seduction community. And the idea was that if you dressed in a way that called attention to yourself, that set you apart from the pack, that the members of the opposite sex would self-select you for their attention. And many people for many, many years would go buy these outrageous fur-covered top hats. They wear aviator goggles. A lot of them are using steampunk clothing now. But the problem with the idea of peacocking is this. If you do not have a sense of self or a sense of identity that is big enough to support the clothing, if your self-image is too small for the clothes you're wearing, then you no longer wear the clothes. The clothes wear you, and you look and you act out of place. You become incongruent. The package doesn't match the vibe, doesn't match the energy, doesn't match the words, right? And a very similar process happens when someone is using the echo technique in an incongruent, insincere way. They will come across many times as something's not right, or they'll often be perceived as almost mocking or stilted in how they use the words. And that's what will flag people who have more of a social seduction type of an agenda. And as you work with this more and more and more, and you start to embody that feeling of desire to know and connect and understand, you'll start to flag people who use it inconsistently. It'll become very, very obvious to you when people are not using it from the right energy, right? Okay, does that help? I know as people are saying, I get it, but that's kind of how we look at this. But I want you to understand, if you embrace the echo technique and everything that derives from it as the most desirable, ethical, and honest, empowering way to communicate with any human being, that when you do this with somebody, you're actually giving them a gift, then you're actually the asshole when you don't use it. I mean, think about it for a moment. If you knew the exact way to communicate with somebody in the way that made them feel the very best way humanly possible about themselves and you, that they felt totally heard and understood, approved of, validated, believed, seen, whatever word you assign to that, if you knew exactly how to do that for another human being, and you chose not to, who's the jerk now? Because that's what I've just given you. But the beautiful thing is it's a tool. But I want you to adopt this as SOP for you. I want it to become part of the way that you move through the world. It's going to change everything. Now, for those, remember, this is a Defense Against the Dark Arts webinar. And I've been spending a lot of time talking about the echo technique, which I talk about in every influence webinar, but for very different reasons. It gives you an advantage, an ethical advantage, but an advantage. Now, here's why. In part 3 of this webinar, if we talk about 3 magic questions, which is an extension and an expansion on echo technique. As people fall deeper and deeper and deeper into connection, into rapport, as they feel more and more approved of and understood, it becomes progressively harder and harder and harder to lie and deceive. Let me say that again. as you continue to use this process and they go deeper and deeper into connection and validation and openness and focus, it becomes progressively harder and harder and harder for them to lie and deceive. In fact, what will often happen is they will disclose things that they had no intention of telling you, that they never thought they would tell another human being. And that's the information that you as a profiler are going to be collecting so that you can use it because they feel they can trust you, and so much more, Melissa. But that's the point. Because isn't the idea of defending yourself against the dark arts to be early? To become aware of who and what somebody is and what they're most likely to do before they have a chance to wreak havoc and attack? That's what this does for you now. Does that make sense? Now, yes, but we don't want them hanging around. And that's a great question because they're going to hang around, aren't they? You do this with any human being, they're going to look for excuses to spend as much time with you as humanly possible. True or not true? It is scary, but that's the world we live in, right? Until you figure out how to sort people into that's my tribe and that ain't, and everybody in between, that's the world you live in. I'm giving you the tools for doing that, but you have to start with the foundations, the fundamentals. This is a fundamental. You have to have feelings towards and away from, baseline, deviance from the baseline. How do you get there? Echo technique. Make sense? Okay. The next part, once you have that basic idea, we'll talk about the next part of behavioral profiling, which is clustering. Annabelle says, can we do this technique with writing? Yes. As long as you have, if you're responding to somebody's correspondence, or if you're a marketer and you have a really good understanding of the language of the market, then you can use the same idea. Is psychopathy the only one this doesn't work on? I'm not going to say that it doesn't work on psychopathic people. I'm saying it's got a higher probability of, you have a higher probability of something else happening, because people with high degrees of psychopathy, especially if they're well organized, extraordinarily smart and perceptive. Yes, the echo technique, guys, the echo technique works in any medium where language, human language is involved. Okay? Does just hypnotic language, or does E prime, or does prime affect? I don't understand the question, JG. Everything I've taught you so far has nothing to do with hypnotic language patterns, although it is one of your most powerful ones. How can this be used in texting? Well, how can it be used in texting is very simple. I just did it. Right? What did I say? Dujan wrote, how can this be used in texting? I said, wow, how can this be used in texting? That's a great question. It can be used in texting by simply starting every response with pieces of their words and then moving into something else. And that's how you can use this during texting. Right? Right. Again, it's stupidly, I'm one of the first people to admit, it's stupidly formulaic. Right now in Killer Influence and Defense Against the Dark Arts, we'll show you 4 or 5 ways that you can use the echo technique all different kinds of ways in normal conversation and never sound like you're saying the same things over and over again. Okay? But it's literally, if you go to my early YouTube videos, you'll see me doing this on people in the audience all the time. And everybody in the audience catches it but the person I'm using it on. Seraphim Media says, I formed a deep connection with somebody online in another country that seems to be using techniques on me that's raising my intuition. That's raised my intuition lately. Okay, I'm not sure if there's a question there. But here's the thing. Anytime something bothers you in your gut, follow that. Follow that. Okay, so has this been helpful so far? I promised you I would take you as far as I could in the time that we have, and then I'd show you where to go to level up. Have I done that so far? Cool. Is it okay if I share with you some opportunities that I've put together to help you level these skills up? This means yes? Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my PowerPoint. All right. So if you're ready to take your life to the next level, if you had the ability to profile people, to speed read them, if you could come away from this webinar with the exact tools that you needed to move your life forward, what would those tools be? What would that do for you? Type that in the chat for me right now. Oh, wait, go ahead. Opportunities, perfect. Help people, help me help people, beautiful. I love that. Keep writing, folks. This is the participatory part. Better hypnotherapy. Stephanie, if you want people to just plow into trance, use the echo technique. By the way, for those of you who are doing any kind of hypnosis work, the most important things you can write down during your intake are the exact words that come out of their mouth, because those are the words that they're going to respond to most powerfully in trance in the form of suggestions. The echo technique doesn't go away just because somebody's critical faculty is on the fence. Okay? So for those of you who do any form of trance work, meditation, copywriting, whatever, you need to be leveraging this echo idea as much as humanly possible. Annabella says it would help me be a lot more conscious of what people can do. Absolutely. So thinking about that, if you were to come away with the exact ability as a byproduct of tonight's training, a byproduct of tonight's webinar, to do all those things, would that be worth your time and energy? Would that be something you want more of? Yes or yes, as T.R. Becker would say. If I could teach you how to completely manipulation-proof your life, would that be helpful? All right. And without further ado, let's talk about what I put together for you. With your permission, I'd like to talk about the newest iteration in our Secrets of Human Influence training home study program. This is the Defense Against the Dark Arts of Persuasion and Manipulation home study course. Now, the things I've talked about, the things I've hinted at, these are all taught at various levels of the home study program that we're about to go through with you. Okay? So, this course is about helping you to ethically and honestly make more money, close more deals, get more dates, help more people, feel more, blah, blah, blah. All those things we know about. Here's what it's going to do on an even deeper level. It's going to give you the ability to take back your power in life. It's going to give you the ability to flag the people who are going to do the same things that other people have done. If you've ever been betrayed, lied to, manipulated, cheated, gaslighted, future promise. We'll talk about those in part 3 of the webinar. If you've ever been on the negative end of any form of manipulation activity, this is going to give you the exact tools you need to take back that power, to master your own mind, and finally, to allow you to move through the world being one of the good people, one of the good guys, for lack of a better word, one of the heroes, to influence people ethically and honestly and have them loving you for having just encountered you and having been given the opportunity to get what they most want by doing what you want. That's what we call a win-win in any part of life. So it's all about taking your life to the next level from both sides of that spectrum, okay? Now, everything I'm going to talk about is good for today, Black Friday, November 29th, 2024, right? At 11:59 p.m., right? So I'm on Pacific time, so do the math, right? So here's what you're going to get. We're going to start you off with our core influence training program. This is the Secrets of Human Influence, the Killer Influence training process. This was named the #1 NLP training program of the year since 2020 by globalgurus.org. You're going to learn how to think like a master of influence. Master influencers and persuaders think in very, very different ways. They organize their thoughts and outcomes differently. We're going to show you how that works so you can apply that to your life. We're going to teach you step by step by step how to control your own psycho-emotional state so no one can push your buttons ever again. Can you guys see me? Can you guys see my slide? Okay, Betty Ann says she can see it. Jax, must just be you. Okay. Now, why is this important? Remember at the beginning of the webinar, I talked about emotional resiliency. A lot of us are moving through the world with big holes in our psychological armor. We have hurts and traumas and things that are very obvious to the manipulators of the world. And if you're really high on the neuroticism spectrum, you're overly socialized, if you have a lot of trauma, a lot of baggage, those things are actually quite visible through your behaviors, your speech patterns to the predators of the world. So part of our training is to get those things healed, to help you heal inside and out. But also, it's about giving you the ability to choose what state you want to be in at any given moment at the drop of a hat. Our definition of state control or emotional state control is the ability to go into any psycho-emotional state at will, on demand, anytime, anywhere, under any circumstances, and to allow you to recover anytime somebody else throws your emotional equilibrium out of balance. You see, especially for beginners who haven't healed all their traumas, who haven't gotten past all their hurts and betrayals and all those things. When somebody pokes that bear, it's going to throw your system into a very highly emotional, highly reactive, very predictable way of viewing the world and interacting with people. Manipulators know this. So the secret to winning isn't necessarily being invulnerable. It's about how recoverable you are. In other words, if you get taken by surprise, how fast can you get back your state? How quickly can you get your mind back under your own control so you can control everything else? That's what state control truly is. It's not just about stepping into a state in a seminar room and then never doing it again. It's about giving you the exact sets of skills and drills necessary so that you can choose who to be at any given moment. And when things take you by surprise, which they will, you can instantly get back on your game and finish that interaction and come out on top over and over and over again. If there's a Jedi skill in Planet David, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Because without it, nothing else works. Okay? This is the most powerful piece, and it's the thing you'll never see on a YouTube video. It's the thing we're most proud of. We have lots of really powerful skills, but this is the one that takes you off the predator's menu and keeps you off. Right? We're going to teach you the power rapport skills. I released a video recently. In our system, we have 3 types of rapport. We have classical rapport, which is what you learn in any NLP class. We have coherence or kinesthetic rapport, which is a balance of the 2 hemispheres of the brain combined with opening your heart and using that to connect with the heart and the brain of another human being. It's called coherence. If you're familiar with any of heart maths technologies, you'll understand what this means. It's one of the most powerful and physics-driven ways to get rapport with any human being and pass information back and forth. It's really powerful. The 3rd type of rapport is called vibing or activity level. And this is the type of vibing, the type of rapport skills that you must use for attraction and romantic applications. The other types of rapport may get you attraction, but they're not. But a lot of times you'll just get locked into the friend zone or a good friend zone or whatever. But if you have this vibing level down, this will start to stimulate massive levels of attraction and charisma between you and another human being. We're going to teach you all 3 levels of this so you can master them and become aware of when they're being used on you, and you can choose to use them when it's appropriate for you to use them. We're going to teach you the 7 most powerful hypnotic language patterns ever discovered on top of the echo technique. Patterns that will allow you to instantly cause somebody to focus only on the things you want them to focus on and ignore everything else. Patterns that will cause people to automatically start running unconscious processes in their mind that are exactly what you want and describe. language patterns that will cause people to take anything you want and have it cause anything you want in the minds of your listeners and your readers. This works in writing just as powerfully as it works in spoken language. How to make anything you want mean anything you want in the minds of your readers and your listeners, right? How to create powerful three-dimensional imagery in the minds of your subject that are so compelling, it's like they're watching a three-dimensional movie in their head, and they just love it. They go into this deep, profound trance where they just believe everything you say and do what you want. Now, the other side of this, guys, is that as you learn how to use these patterns, as you learn how to feel the effects of these patterns, you will also become sensitized to when they're being used on you inappropriately or inelegantly. In fact, once you ring this bell, you can't unhear it. You'll see these patterns everywhere, from your car brochures to political messages to advertisements to the news. You'll hear and see them everywhere, and you'll understand what's being done to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that you now have a choice about how to respond to that influence. Guys, remember something. Everything that's outside of your awareness is outside of your control. My job, first and foremost, as your teacher, your brother, your sister, your mentor, whatever word you apply to me, is to help you become progressively more aware. And because without awareness, there is no choice. Anything outside of your awareness is outside of your control, but just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it isn't influencing you. As we expand your awareness and you see the matrix, as we like to call it, you will have more and more choice, power, and control. You will reclaim your mind and your power, as we said it in the beginning of this webinar. Then we're going to teach you how to take all of that information and use it to guide and manage the emotional states of other people, how to bond people to the exact things you want them to do for you and love you for it, how to look at somebody's behavior patterns and use them to make people understand you better, to trust you more, and to follow your guidance and your leadership in the way that gets you both what you want, okay? We'll talk about emotional bonding. We'll talk about how that works and how other people can use it to influence you to do things you don't want to do. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about that in part 3 of tonight's webinar. Along with that is going to come a 240-page manual. We call this the Killer Influence Mind Control Manifesto. This has additional training on social hypnotic operators. These are hypnotically programmed triggers that media and government and educational systems and religious systems have programmed into you that many marketers know that will automatically cause you to behave in very predictable, consistent ways. We call these social hypnotic operators. If you're familiar with Robert Cialdini's work on the five macro elements of persuasion, that's what this is. We're going to talk about meta programs, which are ways that people perceive reality and how you can make your messages more palatable by talking to people through their particular meta programs. We'll talk about lie detection, 90-second personality profiling. We'll talk about the 4 pillars of irresistible hypnotic influence: authority, attractivity, affinity, and acquiescence. These are 4 major categories of influence tactics and phenomena that if you don't understand them, they can be used against you to make you want to do things that are not in your best interest. But if you understand how they work, you can begin to combine them in ways that ethically move people in the direction you want them to go and feel absolutely compelled to want to do what you want them to do. You have to decide where that ethical line is, but at least you now have more choice as to what side you want to stay on. Okay, and there's a community that we'll talk about. So the total value on this is $2,497. But if you act today, we're going to include some very special bonuses. And it's Black Friday, so I want you to stay till the end because I've got an extra unannounced bonus that I think you'll really like. So the first thing is we're going to give you the full curriculum: the Defense Against the Dark Arts, Counter Manipulation, and Hypnotic Influence Behavioral Profiling Secrets home study course. This has the complete system for how to profile narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, dark triads, the 20 or 30 most powerful live deception indicators that exist between that I've learned from Chase Hughes, that I've learned from Jason Hansen, both former experts in the Defense Intelligence Agency. We'll talk about personality profiling from what we call the Hunter program, the Combat Hunter program from the U.S. military, which is all a proactive body language training designed to give you the best profile before somebody actually had a chance to do something bad. We'll talk about the red flag system from Blindy Patrick that gives you the 4 basic areas when you're looking at somebody's social media, when you're trying to figure out if somebody's safe enough to date. What do you look at? You look at their focus, you look at their lifestyle, you look at their associations, you look at their groups. This allows you, combined with your own interpersonal training that we're going to give you, the ability to create a profile of who this person is. Does what they say in their social media and their focus and their association, does that match with the person they're presenting to you? These are ways that you're going to be able to begin to create massively powerful profiles. We're going to teach you some face reading techniques. We'll talk about micro expression training so you can figure out when people are hiding a certain glee, that they're pulling off a lie, or that they're secretly angry or secretly sad or disgusted by something while they're trying to pretend to put on a happy face. We're going to teach you how to give people what we call the most powerful body language approach cue there is, and it's called positive eye contact. This is 3 body language cues that, when done together, signal massive friendship and cause people to lower their defenses, and allows you to create that baseline. We're going to teach you the 3 magic questions protocol, resistance removal protocol. We're going to teach you 11 ways to reframe any verbal attack a narcissist or sociopath might give you. We're going to teach you the 21 different ways that narcissists, sociopaths, and other types of persuasion predators use to reframe and gaslight you to avoid being held accountable for the crap that they've been pulling. We're going to show you what those are. We're going to teach you how to role play that so you understand both sides of that continuum, so you can turn the tables on these people over and over and over again. We'll talk about the 15 or 16 red flags that come up during normal conversations that let you know that the person you're dealing with across from you may not be who they say they are, and or has more of a narcissistic, predatory energy to them. There's things that they say, little turns of phrase, little patterns of expression that are consistent from one person in this category to another. We're going to teach you what those are and how you can begin to use them to create a more powerful way of vetting the people in your life. We're going to show you the ways that people, that narcissists specifically, and people who are on that spectrum use when you've finally managed to extricate yourself from your life. How the 7 or 8 tactics that these people use to try and suck you back in. The technical term is called hoovering. I'm going to teach you all that, plus review some of the most powerful influence techniques on the planet, and so much more. This particular program is the only one of its kind out there. It's been ranked the #1 NLP course in the world for the last 2 years. We're going to give this to you absolutely free as a byproduct of the package that we're giving you tonight for Black Friday. It's a $1,997 value. It's yours for free. Total combined value on this, if you do the math, hopefully my math is right, is $4,494. But we're not done yet. If you click the link when it appears right away, we're also going to include Renegade Reframing, how to overcome any objection or change any belief or win any argument in seconds. You remember I said that in Killer Influence and Defense Against the Dark Arts, we're going to show you how to turn the tables on these verbal manipulators. This is one of the ways that we're going to help you to do this. We're going to take this from just a self-defense program, and we're going to expand it into any form of change work that you might do. I know there's a bunch of you out here who are hypnotists, a bunch of you who are coaches, a bunch of you are healers in some way, some of you may be mediators or lawyers or doctors. This is a way for you, anytime you are met with an objection, anytime you're met with an argument or a verbal attack or a negative interpretation of something, how you can instantly change the frame 11 different ways, just like that. And the power of this is when you apply these to your own limiting beliefs, those beliefs change so profoundly you can't go back to thinking about them the same way. So not only is this a way for you to turn the tables on the bad guys, not only is this a way for you to stop hearing no in your business world, your therapy world, and change those beliefs, it's also a way for you to build your own sense of self-worth, self-esteem, to resolve the limiting beliefs you have and expand that emotional resiliency we talked about at the beginning of today's webinar. If you take this process and you use it on yourself, you will be amazed at how radically everything about your life begins to shift and change. Okay? It comes with its own little card game that you can play. It comes with a complete manual, comes with templates, right? Comes with all kinds of really cool ways that you can really install this in your own mind and body. Okay? It's a $1,997 value. We're going to include this as part of your webinar package, 100% free when you click the link. Total value on this is $6,491. Okay? But we're not done yet. We got another thing. Now, this is, of course, when you look at the topic of tonight's webinar, right, defense against the dark arts, and all of a sudden you see a course called Charisma and Conversion, Hypnotic Presentation Skills for Presenters and Public Speakers. I have a question for you. How many of you, by a show of that's me in the chat, have ever gone to a seminar, had no intention of doing anything but attend the seminar, and by the end of the seminar, you were part of this massive stampede to the back of the room to buy the next level of product or service or what have you? How many found yourselves doing that? Betty says, that's me. Stephanie says, yes, right? And you're not even sure when that freaking happened. Would you like to know exactly how that happened so that it never happens to you again? That's why I'm including this course. This course will teach you everything you need to know to speak hypnotically and charismatically from the stage, to deliver powerful presentations and content and construct offers that suck people in, make them love what you're giving them and want to take the next step with you. It's going to teach you how to do small group presentations and large group presentations. It's going to teach you the architecture of hypnotic influence and persuasion, something that only a handful of high-level presenters and speakers, guys like T. Harv Eker, Tony Robbins, Robert Allen, Lisa Sasevich, they teach, but they don't teach. But why am I saying this? Because in this program, we're going to teach you the system behind the system, all the secret hypnotic operators, all the secret influence tactics and techniques that install, subliminally prime people to want to rush to the back of the room, hand over their credit card, and buy the most expensive anything they have, the most complete everything. I'm going to show you exactly how it works, why it works, so that you never fall victim to this kind of programming again. You'll be able to instantly know, right? It's about anytime, sorry, Frank, pattern interrupted me there. Anytime you're presented with these skills, people will instantly flag themselves and you'll know what's coming. You'll know why it's coming. You'll know what they're going to do next. You'll be able to spot these things in people's presentations and you'll be able to say no. You'll be able to become aware of what's being done so you have more choice. But you'll also know exactly how to do it yourself so that you can decide which of these powerful influence and persuasion tools ethically fit in your life. When you present, how do you get people to want to take that next step, to raise their hand? So this is useful for any place where you are going to be in an audience or speaking to an audience, whether you're the presenter or whether you're somebody who's going to get information or have a service delivered to them. This is going to teach you the most powerful way to deliver that information in a way that goes right into their minds, that they retain it, they get excited and enthusiastic and motivated by it, and they want to take the next step with you, right? So this can be used to help people learn as well as get people to buy the next level, right? Clowny says the videos are phenomenal. Yes. So this is a $1,997 value. I built most of my business, guys and gals. I built most of my business using the exact tools in this course that I'm sharing with you. And the reason I say that is because many of us, we know about social media, we know about YouTube, we know about Facebook, and we all know that in those venues, in those platforms, content is king. This is going to show you systematically how to create content people love and repurpose that content on your blog, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, whatever it is, while at the same time building your in-person business. Right? That's how I did this. If you look at all my early videos on YouTube, they're all in front of a live audience, and this is how I did it. Right? If you've ever been enthralled or just captivated by the way I'm presenting, I'm using these techniques to give you the most powerful experience I can in an ethical and honest way. So I'm giving this to you, A, as a way for you to build your life, but also to protect yourself from people who are going to promise you the next Golden Gate Bridge or the rainforest and the desert, that kind of stuff. We're going to show you how to separate all that out so you can have more power and influence. Right? So it's a total combined value. So $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you for free. Total combined value on this is $8,488. Right? If you were to go to the website, try to buy these things individually, that's about what you would pay if you could find some of these things. So this is what I got for you on this fine Black Friday. We're going to give you the Secrets of Human Influence home study program. This is the Universal Persuasion Protocol, right? It's $2,497 value plus all the extra training in the manual. We're going to give you the Defense Against the Dark Arts, Counter Manipulation, Influence and Behavioral Profiling Secrets home study program. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give you Renegade Reframing, how to instantly overcome any objection, change any belief, or win any argument in seconds. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. And we're going to give you the Charisma and Conversion Hypnotic Presentation Skills home study course so you can understand both sides of the influence continuum. How to use mass influence to fill your seminar room, your coaching programs, your client roster, but also to protect yourself from being unethically manipulated by high-ticket seminar leaders trying to mind fuck you, for lack of a better word, into buying something you don't really need. So, and the reason I say that is because my AV guy, when I first started teaching this course, I was deconstructing one of the talks that T. Harv Eker did. And I didn't know it at the time, but my AV guy had actually gone to that seminar, had been presented with that exact presentation, and wound up buying the instructor program at the highest dollar value, and had no idea any of this was being done to him. And when he saw the breakdown of this, he was like, he literally like turned 3 shades of purple and couldn't speak for like 10 minutes. And every time thereafter, when I taught this course, he would just sit there and glower and just mumble under his breath because he felt what this can do, right? I'm giving you the opportunity to have more power, freedom, and choice, to take back your mind, take back your power, and influence people ethically and honestly and build your business and help a lot of people. But it's up to you to choose to do that, right? Total value on this is $8,488. So today, I want to give you the best deal humanly possible. So obviously, it's Black Friday. We're not going to make you pay $8,488. We're not going to make you pay $6,481. We're not even going to make you pay $5,347, $3,347, $23. Nope. You can get it all for one low installment of just $997, or you can break that down into 3 easy payments of $397 each. Now, lest you think I'm done, ladies and gentlemen, believe me when I say you might want to stick around till the end of part 2. Okay? Because if you act now, you click this link, go to www.killerinfluence.com/GO, click this link. Deesnet says, I always wanted to go to David's class and Joe Dispenza's. What was interesting, Dees, is that one of my students actually went to see Dr. Joe, and he saw every single thing that I teach in charisma and conversion being done by Dr. Joe that his trainers didn't actually ever get taught. His name is Bernie. He went to a training. It was really funny. Anyway, click this link right now, www.killerinfluence.com/go. And if you click that link right now, you're also going to get a 60-day guarantee. Test these materials out for a full 60 days. If after 60 days, you're not on the fast track to feeling more confident and secure, making more money, saving more money because you're not spending money on things you don't want or need, if you're not closing more deals, if you're not feeling more confident and secure and empowered, if you're not feeling more emotionally stable in any social encounter, if you're not finding ways to turn the tables on the people who try to get you to do things you don't want to do, when you find yourself flagging people who are trying to emotionally manipulate you in any way, shape, or form, right? If you're not experiencing any of those things to your degree of satisfaction, you pick up the phone, you let us know, we'll refund every dime you invested in this program. You have absolutely nothing to risk here because I want you to have all the tools that you need. I want you to be ready to move through the world, getting everything you want by showing enough other people how to get exactly what they want, and keep yourself from being manipulated into giving away the things that are most important to you because you think you have to. Okay. So go click this link right now. One of the things I'll teach you in the charisma and conversion is click the link, click the link, click the link. Always do triples, right? Brain likes triples. So click that link, killerinfluence.com/go, reserve your spot. Now, if that wasn't good enough for you, if you click this link right now, before November 29th, I'm also going to include these special fast action bonuses. A, you're going to get 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. This is a program we've been running for the last 13 years. 13? Started in 2010. So yeah, going on 14 years. And we meet on the third Saturday of every month, either in person or virtually. And I literally go around the room and I say, hey, Frank, what do you want to learn? Seth, what do you want to learn? Jason, what do you want to learn? Joshua, what do you want to learn? Joanne, Jody, what do you want to learn? I write all those things down on the board. Ninja Ryan, what do you want to learn? Class, what do you want to learn? I write them on the board and I step back and I look at all the connecting threads, where all these things kind of overlap and line up. And I create a lesson plan for you right on the spot. And for the next 4 to 6 hours, I drill you on these techniques specifically until you can do them in your sleep. Okay? This is the glue that binds the home study and the live events together. This is where you get to meet your tribe. This is where you get to be part of a community who is interested in the exact same things that you're interested in, that wants to get better at the exact same things you want to get better at, but don't have anybody to practice with. You know, I just finished my mega retreat in Tampa, and I was with 8 or 9 of my closest students, and the one thing that they said over and over again was how they loved their new family, how they loved the fact that they could come here and be completely accepted, understood, and talk about things that other people would look at them like they're crazy for. Ladies and gentlemen, we all need a tribe. We all need people who are like-minded, who are like us, who want the same things that we want. The Mastermind has been the longest running practice group in history. It's been running nonstop since October 2010. We've met on the third Saturday of every month, month after month. Since then, we've videotaped every single training and archived them on our various platforms, the NLP Power website, our private Facebook archive, our members-only YouTube channel levels. And you, as a full-fledged member of the Mastermind during your trial, will have 100% 24-hour day access to the entire, actually it's 12 or 13 years of video archive now. You can binge watch stuff that's never been shown on YouTube, never been seen in a product or service, and it covers the full spectrum of mind and body interactions. Everything from how to attract people, how to develop your psychic skills, do energy healing, trauma resolution, body language, marketing, copywriting, memory enhancements, you name it, we do it. If it involves the mind and body and energy, spirituality in any way, anything law of attraction, it's there. right? Clothing styles and status and social influence, it's all there, right? Things I haven't even named yet. You can binge watch this to your heart's content. It's a $1,597 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Why? Because we want you to know that you're part of something bigger. We want you to know that there's a way for you to take the exact skills that you want to learn and get better at and have a place where you can go to safely, easily practice and then take those skills out into the world and really prove to yourself how unstoppable they are. This is your chance. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. So if you add this to everything I've talked about so far, total combined value is $10,085. But we're not done. For those of you who want to get started right away, if you click this link right now, we're also going to include the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course. This is a special fast start program I created many, many years ago, designed to give you, you download it tonight, watch a couple hours and be hypnotizing people literally hours after you got the course. It comes with 13 or 14 specific videos, 2 that you need to watch if you want to be able to use powerful hypnotic language patterns, 1 that you need to watch if you want to be able to do instant hypnotic inductions anytime, anywhere. It comes with complete transcripts, downloadable audios that you can listen to while you're driving or otherwise not engaged with heavy machinery. It has workbooks, as well as some bonus videos like hypnotic anchoring, hypnotic hot buttons and criterion values listation. I believe there's even a course, a short course on lie detection in there as well. This is a $997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Why? Because some people don't want to wait. Some people want to start right now, right? They don't want to sit through 3 or 4 or 5 days of video before they can start doing something. This will get you started tonight, right? So total value is we're going to give this to you. Its total value is $11,082. And then finally, for those of you who want the cherry on the sundae, for the next 21 people to click that link right now, we're going to give you a special all-inclusive VIP ticket to our next Killer Influence 2025 Secrets of Covert Hypnosis 5-day certification bootcamp, January 21st to the 25th, 2025 here in San Diego. You can also attend this virtually, although we highly encourage you to attend this live if you can. Nothing will put these skills inside of you in a way that's fun, actionable, real-world specific and oriented as the Killer Influence live training. Okay. For those of you who have had Killer Influence, if you've had Killer Influence before and you don't want to come to the live Killer Influence training, you can take that ticket and apply it towards any single live training that we're doing between now and the end of time. As long as you're in our database as a VIP ticket holder member, you can apply this live ticket, this live event ticket, to any training. For example, we have advanced face reading coming up next month. If you've had Killer Influence, you want to come to the advanced face reading class, you can use your ticket. If you want to gift that ticket to somebody else and have them come to Killer Influence or another one of our classes, you can do that too. If we raise the price of our trainings, you don't pay a dime more. If the training is sold out, but you have one of these tickets, we'll make a seat for you. If something happens at the last moment and you can't go, we will actually move you to another training, right? So this thing doesn't expire, and you can take as long as you need to use it. You just need to be in our database by clicking that link right now. So this is going to give you everything we've talked about in the Secrets of Human Influence training, 5 full days of hands-on training, how to control your psycho-emotional state at will so nobody else can, how to think like a master of influence, how to use the 3 levels of rapport, how to turn people's no's into instant yeses, how to bond to people's emotional value so they want to do the things you want them to do, okay? How to make people like, love, and trust you, how to hypnotize people during normal conversations, whole 9 yards. All you have to do is click that link in your chat, fill out the form, and you will be added to our database. How to break everyday electronics. Yes, for those of you who know me and all the energy work that I do, you will discover that I have these amazingly interesting effects on anything electronic. Lee, there is no discount code for this. You just click the link and you'll get all the different, everything else will be handled automatically. Okay. Total value on this is $3,150 value. If you look at the total package, it's asking for it now. Thanks. Okay. By the way, how many of you voted for me for NLP Global Gurus of the Year? Okay. If you did vote for me, after you click this link and you get confirmation that you're in the VIP program, send me a private email because I have an extra special gift for you. If you voted for me, I have an extra gift. Okay. Okay. Total value on this is $14,232 if you were to buy them individually. But you can get it all. The Secrets of Human Influence Home Study Course, Defense Against the Dark Arts, Renegade Reframing, Charisma and Conversion, NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course, the Killer Influence VIP Super Ticket 5-day training. You can get a total package value is $14,232. But, ladies and gentlemen, do you know what today is? What's today? Type it in the chat. What's today? Friday? Just any old Friday? The day that things are cheaper? Absolutely. Because it's Black Friday. For the next 21 people that click this link right now, you're going to get this total package. Total value, $14,232. You're not going to get it for $997. Click that link right now. You'll get the entire package. We're going to take an extra $200 off the Black Friday deal today. You can get it all for $797. But you got to click that link right now before I log off the webinar. The next 21 people that click this link for Black Friday get everything I talked about with an extra $200 discount. All you got to do to get yours is go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. Click that link right now. Reserve your spot. This is open to everybody, whether you've bought webinar offers in the past or if it's your first time. You're going to get it all for a super low price. Okay, comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee, the VIP Super Ticket. But this is a one-payment deal. You can break it into 3 easy installments of just $397 at the regular price. But if you want to save that extra money, click that link right now. Go to killerinfluence.com/go. Killer Influence, click the link, click the link, click the link. I'll put it in both the chats for everybody. All right. So here's what's going to happen. I want you guys to go ahead and click those links. If you have questions, and I know there's some questions that always come up, you can reach out to Moss and Mia. You can reach Moss at the customer service number. You can reach Mia via email. Now, let's say you're looking at this program and you've bought this package or a similar package to this in the past. If you call that phone number, the customer service number right now, and you leave your contact information, we will let you substitute any program of equal or lesser value for any package or any product you already own. So you can completely customize the package, right? Again, serious inquiries only. Please, 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 when you call, leave your contact information. If you call and you do not leave your contact information, you will not qualify for the special pricing. You will not qualify for any of the fast action bonuses. But if you leave your number when you call, then you will qualify for everything that I've just mentioned. Okay? So click this link right now. Get in our database. Get your VIP tickets. Okay? Get ready to use them. Get ready to show up. You can come to Face Reading next month if you want. You can come to Killer Influence in January, or if there's any other 5-day or 3-day training that you would like in our 2025 calendar that you'd like to use this for instead, all you got to do is pick up the phone or send us an email, and we'll move you to the guest list for that training. So I'm going to give you guys a 7 or 8. I'm going to 8-minute break to make whatever arrangements you need. Click those links right now. 858-282-4663. Mia at nlppower.com, Moss at nlppower.com. Brandon's hiding in the back scenes there. When we come back, we're going to drill down into the exact topics that you guys want to know most about. This is where we're going to customize the fundamentals that we laid, the basics that we laid down at the beginning of part 1, and we're going to spend the next half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, teaching you the skills you most want and need to know right now. Text says we're getting a lot of calls. Please be patient. Please text for now, right? But do it right now. You can ask anybody who's been around, you can ask Seth. I have never, ever given a webinar package with this much stuff for this low an investment ever. This is the one time we're going to do it. Make sure you're texting. Make sure you're leaving your contact information. There's a frickin' stampede right now, folks. I get it. It's cool. It's exciting. I'm going to give you guys that 8-minute break that we talked about and get your stuff finalized. When we come back, we're going to jump right into more defense against the dark arts and getting what you want the way that you want it. This is Dr. David. I will see you at 6:09 p.m. Pacific, whatever that is your time. We'll see you then. Click those links and let's get going. All right, we got about 2 minutes left on our break. I'm back. If anybody has a question or something that they want to ask about while you're finalizing your orders or whatever, go ahead and type your question, and I'm happy to answer. Jax has a question. Type your question. All right. So what do you guys want to focus on for the part 3 of the webinar? You want to look at victimology? You want to look at resistance removal? You want to look at reframes? You want to look at 3 magic questions? You want to look at advanced lie detection tactics? Which direction you guys want to go? So Lee's saying resistance removal and reframing. And I'm sure those are typos. I'm sure those are typos, Seth, so that whatever's on the webinar slide is what we're going to honor. Do most psychopaths have the same lifestyle? Because I know 2 people who were diagnosed with. No, that's a great question. We can talk about that as part of part 3. Psychopathy, by the way, my friend Chase, when I was training with him, he would say that you can't actually go to the DSM-5 and find the term psychopathy. And the reason for that is because psychopathy is a generic term for any kind of mental illness. So one of the things I've learned is that there's 2 basic approaches to psychopathy, I guess you can think about it. And one, what we call organized versus disorganized. So you have some people who are just like renegade, maniac, axe murderers, right? These are, to use a more provocative term. And then you have more of the Ted Bundys of the world, right? Or the Night Stalkers, or those kinds of people. And these people are highly organized. They may be very brutal, but they're much more systematic until they start to spiral. So the short answer to your question is people will handle their stuff differently, right? You really can't predict. One of the things that you will see, though, some of the common characteristics in most of your predatory humans, especially the ones that we're most familiar with, is they will be highly sensation-seeking, and that means that they're very impulsive. They like things that have a lot of adrenaline. So they'll be very, and they often move towards manic type activities. So anything that gives them an adrenaline rush is one of the hallmarks of a lot of these sociopathic and high dopaminergic type character types. The other thing is they also tend to be very impulsive. So a lot of times they won't think about the long-term consequences of what they're doing. So when you're flagging them, if you follow like Dr. Wendy Patrick's flags process, right? Focus, lifestyle, association, groups. When you look at the lifestyles and association and groups areas, do they do a lot of crazy things? Do they like to drag race? Do they have pictures of themselves, waving a beer bottle while they're behind the wheel? Weird stuff, right? You wouldn't think it looks like people just goofing and having a good time. But how much of a preponderance of high risk craziness do they engage in, right? That tends to be a commonality. They engage in risky behavior, a lot of unprotected sex, drug use. Again, not just because somebody engages in drugs or because somebody is a nudist or a swinger or somebody who likes to do all these atypical things doesn't make them a sociopath. It doesn't make them a narcissist. It doesn't make them any path at all. But if you see people who have a lot of these things and they have a history of very short-term nomadic lifestyles, that cluster is often a pretty good indication of somebody who is very high on that spectrum. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So going back to what do you guys want to focus on? So I have 2 raised hands. I want to say, let me go to the chat and see what that's about. Oh, I just killed my own chat. Hold on a second. All right, so we can go with resistance removal. We can go with victimology. What is the number to order? It's 858-282-4663. Put that in the other chat. Is 858-282-4663. Okay. Okay, so Jody's saying resistance removal. Yeah, I think I saw resistance removal come up quite a bit. Let's talk about that. So what are the things that's going to happen as you move through the world? You're going to be asking people to do things for you, and they're going to say no. So some of the material that I'm going to share with you is derived from one of the references that we use is Instant Influence by Dr. Michael Pantalone, Pantalone. Instant Influence by Michael Pantalone. Very good book. In that book, he describes a protocol that in our world, we have a process we've based on that called the autonomizer formula. And this is a conversational framework that will trigger somebody to create their very own most powerful reason for doing something that they've just told you they did not want to do. Now, before I go further into the psychology behind this or the neurology behind this, I will tell you that I have used this thing on stuff that shouldn't be arguable. For example, I've had at least 2 or 3 times where I've used this version of this protocol on people with tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and I've literally argued them out of their ringing in their ears. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see me use this on a lady presenting with low-grade back pain, where I literally use a variant of this formula, and I argue her out of her back pain. And she's looking at me like I'm some kind of wizard, like, what did you do? Right? The only thing I will say about that is that the audio in that video is not the best. which is kind of common. So if remember that my early videos did not have a lot of great video or audio. I had a tech staff of one, me. So I was bouncing between being up in front of the room and being in the back of the room, hoping I was staying in the camera shot and that people could hear me. So I apologize for the audio quality of some of my early videos. I may get, when I get some time, I may go back and redo that video with AI so that you guys can hear it better and stuff like that. The slouch, I don't know what you did, but it worked. Thanks, Frank. All right, so let's talk about resistance removal. I'm going to go ahead and go to my share screen. But while we're going to talk about this, what are some areas where you might want to use something like this? Give me a few scenarios that you're dealing with that this would be helpful, so I can target this training for you better. I love this formula, by the way. I really do. Once you get good at it, there isn't much that you can't reverse in like 2 minutes. So go ahead, talk to me. Type it in the chat. You guys on YouTube, I know it's a little bit of a delay. Cloudy says therapy, counseling, investigations. Okay. Dysfunctional family dynamics. Okay. What else? All right. While you guys are doing that, let's talk about some principles and things that we have to understand to use this process effectively. In Planet David, and you'll learn this in your when you get your defense against the dark arts training. You'll get this in both the Secrets of Human Influence training as well as the dark arts. In Planet David, we divide resistance into 3 categories, 3+1 categories. Okay. So there's 3 types of resistance that we can classify. Welcome, Betty Ann. Betty just finished signing up. Awesome. In the hypnosis world, they say there's no such thing as resistant clients, only inflexible therapists. Now, that is true enough to be true. Your ability to get somebody into hypnosis and to follow the processes that you want them to go through is greatly impacted by your behavioral flexibility. But there's another side to this as well, and that is connection, trust, and rapport. Okay? When you encounter resistance, you're going to encounter it in 3+1 variety. Human beings inherently resist anything that challenges the way they see themselves. Let me repeat that. Human beings inherently resist anything that challenges their self-image, the way their self-concept, the way they see themselves. Like if we were in a different class, we would be talking about ideals and emotional values. But each and every one of us has an image that we like to think of ourselves as. And we will inherently push back or move away from anything that asks us to be something different. Okay? This is also true when you go through some kind of transformation or change that your family members aren't comfortable with. Because the transformation that you're going through triggers and reflects to them the things in them that they're lacking and the box that they've put you in, and they will fight to keep you the same because you being different makes them uncomfortable. It challenges the way they see themselves and the world they've come to accept as true, which we'll get to in just a moment. So human beings will inherently push back against anything that threatens, and the key word here is threatens, anything that challenges the way they see themselves. That's 1. Resistance number 2, human beings will inherently push back against anything that threatens the way they think other people will see them. So this is other consciousness. The first one is self-consciousness. In other words, I'm a diehard conservative, Orthodox, Catholic, whatever, and you're asking me to engage in some kind of pagan ritual, right? That's not who I am. That's not what I resonate with. I'm going to resist that. Okay, my self-concept, what I believe is right for me, who I am, and I'm going to resist it because it doesn't match. That's self-consciousness. But let's say you're asking me to go to a costume party, right? And I see myself as this super macho, ultra masculine, adventurer type, right? And I believe other people see me that way. And you're asking me to dress up in a baby costume or to go in drag to that party, right? I'm not going to resist it because I don't want, because it's not fun. I'm going to resist it because of the way that I think other people will view me, right? So we inherently resist anything that threatens the way we believe other people will perceive us. In face reading, if you come to face reading next month, we're going to talk about the two sides to a human's face. You have their public mask, which is seen in the right side of the face, and you have their private mask, which is the part that only intimate people see. The public mask is the face I show the world. It's the self-image that I project. It's the way I want you to think about me. Human beings will inherently resist any message or any communication or any request that threatens that public face. So phase one, anything that threatens my private face, I'm going to push back. Anything that presses my public face, I'm going to push back. The final resistance in the resistance categories, human beings will inherently push back against anything that threatens what they have accepted as true. Okay. Now, when I teach this in Killer Influence, I'll talk about. Let me see if I can do this really quick without screwing up my. I'm gonna try and do this without freezing up my screen. So let's say that I'm a 5-year-old going to kindergarten for the first time, right? And all the while I'm at home with mommy. Mommy's teaching me about shapes and colors, right? And mommy tells me that this is a red square. Mommy was my God, authority figure, most trusted, knows everything. Remember, this is a 4 or 5-year-old we're talking about. And she told me that this shape is a red square. Now, I go to kindergarten. Let me see if I can find my colors here. Hold on a second. I go to school. And the teacher says, David, go up to the board and draw me a red square. And I draw this. And she says, no, David, that's a green circle. This is a red square. And I look the teacher right in the eye with all the sincerity my little 5-year-old body says, and I say, Mommy said this is a red square. And now we're going to go back and forth. Now, will that teacher eventually be able to get me to grudgingly admit that this is a red square? The short answer is yes. However, will I believe it in my heart? The answer to that, more often than not, is no. Why? Because this was there first. It was done by somebody who I implicitly believe is the God of my world. Eventually, I'll come to accept that this is a red square and that's a green circle. But I won't be happy about it. And I will push back as much as humanly possible. So why is this important? Because it doesn't really matter what's true. What matters is what we believe is true. And we will, inevitably, push back anytime we are confronted with something that threatens our truth. Some of the more advanced psychology research would call this a confirmation bias, right? We don't want the truth. We want evidence that what we believe is true is actually true. So these are the three kinds of resistance, plus one. There's one more that we're going to talk about, and this is the one that will derail us probably more than the other three. It's one that's completely unconscious and is, in many cases, very illogical. Okay, but before I go into that last one, are you guys with me so far? Is everything I'm saying making sense to you? Cool. Okay. Now, for those of you who are influence professionals, if you want your message to be more accepted and embraced by your audience, any presentation that you give should talk about how they're going to see themselves. It should talk about how other people are going to see them and how it affirms what they believe is true. That's how you take these same ideas of resistance, you build them into your message so that now they're in alignment with those resistances. Does that make sense? Right? So when we talk about defense against the dark arts, for example, when you master these skills, you'll no longer see yourself as somebody who is a victim. You'll no longer see yourself as somebody who is helpless in any situation or circumstance. You'll move through the world radiating a sense of power and awareness and understanding and calmness and control that makes you the envy of everyone you meet. And when you interact with people, they'll see that new confidence in you. And you'll realize now the truth is that you understand people better than they know themselves. And because you understand that, you can now help as many people as humanly possible. You can keep yourself safe, and you can absolutely write your own ticket in this world in an ethical and honest way that 100% matches the life direction you've set for yourself. Now, isn't that something that we all want? Type it in the chat. Now, what did I just do there? By the way, you can get it all by clicking that link right now. Right? What did I just do? I talked about what? I talked about how they're going to see themselves. You, editorially. I talked about how you're going to see yourself. How many of you found yourself somewhere in what I was describing? How many of you found yourself picturing how other people are going to change and respond to you differently? How many people you found your truth being stimulated, your truth saying, yeah, that's me, that's true. True or not true? I gave us your medicine. Yeah. Now, for those of you who are doing any kind of marketing, sales, whatever, The moment you can tap into those three levels of resistance and align with them using their words, that's how much faster those people are going to buy in to the direction you want them to go. Does that make sense? Questions about that? I have one more type of resistance to talk about, then we'll get into the formula. Is it something you can use? Can you see yourself utilizing these three truth formula, this three resistance formula in your communications? Richard says I could use it. Yeah. Okay. Jeff says you're spot on. Boom. Right. Perfect. Okay. So the practice technique, absolutely. And if you combine this with the echo technique and the emotional bonding, it gets even stronger. Right. Everything that we teach you, you're learning a system. I'm teaching you bits and pieces of technique that are radioactive on their own. When you put them in the process, in the system that they come from, you get a multiplicative effect. You get a geometric amplification of all the impact. Okay, I'm very much a systems guy. So Jodian says currently using echo and it's working. Want to perfect the aspect. Perfect. If all you ever get from me is the echo technique, you're way ahead of the competition. All right, so let's talk about the last piece of the resistance puzzle. Now, I say 3 + 1 types of reactance or resistance. The fourth one is called reactance. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me just remind everybody that when I log off tonight's webinar, the super low Black Friday discount goes away. So when would now be a good time to click that link so you can get the Secrets of Human Influence home study program valued at $2,497. The Defense Against the Dark Arts home study course, $1,997. You get that for free. You get the Renegade Reframing home study program, $1,997. You're going to get that for free. You get a Charisma and Conversion, $1,997 value, absolutely free. You're going to get the NLPR Mastermind Mentoring Program, $1,597 value. You're going to get that for free. You're going to get the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course, $997 for free. And you're going to get that 5-day VIP ticket. We have VIP Anything Goes super ticket to the next Killer Influence 5-day Secrets of Covert Hypnosis Training Bootcamp. Or if you want, you can use it for any of our other 5-day or 3-day events coming up in the year of 2025. Total value on this is $14,232, but you can get it all for our Black Friday special today only. You're going to get an extra $200 off, and you can get the entire package and the VIP ticket, the 3-month trial, the whole ball of wax for one low installment of $797. All you got to do is click this link, go to killerinfluence.com/go. That's killerinfluence.com/go. If you need a little bit more time, you can get it for 3 easy installments of just $397 each. But we've never given a package so much away for so low an investment. This is probably one of the only times we'll do this. So by all means, click this link right now. Remember, it's a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you're not on the fast track to becoming more bulletproof in terms of being influenced and not more unstoppable in terms of being influencing, we'll refund all your money. Let us help you get through the sticking points. If it's still not working, you just let us know and we'll give you a full refund. And you can keep any courses that you downloaded as our way of saying thank you for giving it a shot. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. I'll do one final call before I log off tonight's webinar. So if you have any questions, when would now be a good time to click these links, killerinfluence.com. Hold on a second. I just want to make sure. And you're gone. And let's see here. And there we go. Okay, so let's go back to training. All right, so let's talk about reactance. I like to call reactance the fuck you factor. And let me explain why that is. Reactance is not logical. It's not rational. Reactance is that inherent need to push back against any form of influence that we did not specifically invite. So when you're at the killer influence training, you'll hear me talk about, it's 5 o'clock in the evening, you're about to sit down to dinner. And right as you sit down to dinner, you hear this knock on the door. You open the door and there's this guy that you know from the neighborhood. He's like the local parish priest or somebody who's very, very respectable, well thought of, completely credible in your neighborhood. And he says, "Hey, guy, hey, I'm sorry to bother you during dinner. This really cool thing happened, and I didn't know what else to do, so I just thought I'd go around and talk to some of the neighbors and see what they thought about it. So here's the deal. My great aunt passed away last month, and apparently in her will, she left me this massive coin collection. Has all these gold coins and from all the documentation and all the everything that shows you they're legitimate. And I know that I'd like to give to charity. So what I decided to do was I want to spread the wealth a little bit. Now, I heard you were interested in investments and things like that. So what I've been doing is I've been going to all the neighbors and I've been like, each of these gold coins is worth about $1,500. Now, keep in mind, I'm trying to paint a context for you. Okay. Each of these coins is worth about $1,500. I'm letting them go for like $200 a piece. And I was curious how many you'd be interested in buying. What's your knee-jerk reaction to that pitch? Is it give me all of them? Or is it like, what's the scam? What's going on? What's your initial knee-jerk response? Anybody? Jack says it's not real. Value? Okay. Now keep in mind, this guy came out of nowhere, interrupted your dinner, and said, "Hey, I'm selling dollars for dimes. How many you want to buy?" Do you just rush in and say, "Give me all of them"? It's too good to be true, right? Now, why are you thinking that? You know this guy. You've known him for years. He's a pillar of the community. The documentation is all there. And yet your knee-jerk response is, this is full of shit. This isn't true. This isn't real. This guy's bugging me. Would you say that's more true than not? I want to hear more, see if it's worth it. Okay, good. Thank you, just the same, doesn't match. Okay. Now, what you've just encountered is reactance. Reactance is this initial refusal to do whatever we're being influenced to do just because we've been influenced to do it. Reactance happens anytime we're presented with influence we didn't invite. Now, why is this important? Because when you try to convince somebody to do something they've already said no to, you become the guy at the door. And the person you're seeking to convince will paint any communication that you give them with an agenda that is not good for them, regardless of how honorable and loving and authentic you are. So when you want, here's the secret. You have to neutralize the reactance in the person you're seeking to influence. Okay? In other words, you have to get that person to believe that you are on their side. What does that actually mean? Well, in the context of therapy, in the context of counseling, if you've got somebody who's taking drugs or is smoking, right? When that person walks into your clinic, even for weight loss, right? 9 out of 10 of the people who walk into your clinic to lose weight or to, even on a greater degree, get off drugs or stop smoking, 9 out of 10 of them are not there because they want to be. 9 out of 10 of them are there because everybody and their brother, sometimes even the courts, have forced them to go. They've just busted their stones or browbeaten them or imposed fines or penalties on them until they have no choice but to capitulate. It's no different than when Junior, who thought that a green circle was a red square, went to kindergarten and the teacher told that little boy, no, that's a green circle. The cognitive dissonance wells up, the reactance wells up, and they push back, regardless of how logical and proof-laden the argument is. So the catch-22 for getting people to do exactly what you want them to do when they just said they didn't is to convince them that you support their right not to do it. Let me say that again. The paradox, the catch-22 necessary to get people to do the thing they said they didn't want to do is you have to convince them that you support their right not to do it. So this is what it might look like if you were coming to me in my clinic. Right? I like to do this example. I'm going to go through the process, and then I'll walk you through the steps. Right? So if someone comes into my clinic, and I say, hey, I'm David. I'm Dr. David. How can I help you today? Hi, I'm Lou. And I saw your sign. I saw your ads on YouTube, and I need you to help me quit smoking. Oh, okay. So how long have you wanted to quit smoking? Well, to be truthful, I don't. But everybody in my family wants me to quit smoking. My wife is on my case. My kids say I smell like an ashtray. My boss doesn't let me smoke inside. He makes me go outside. I'm getting shit everywhere I go. And I just need you to make me quit smoking. Now, that's the first thing you got to listen for. Anytime somebody comes at you and says, I need you to make me do X, that's a big red flag, right? So, Lou, just so I understand you better, you're here to quit smoking, but you don't want to quit smoking. Your wife wants you to quit smoking. Your boss wants you to quit smoking. Your kids want you to quit smoking. But you want me to make you quit smoking, but you don't want to quit smoking. Yeah, can you do that? Yeah, you're a hypnotist. I hear you guys can do that stuff. Well, we can do that stuff. But here's the thing. And I think it's really important, Lou, that you understand this. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to pretend Lou is here now. Lou, when you walk in that door, I'm your guy. And I'm going to be very upfront with you. If you don't want to quit smoking, there is not enough hypnosis in the world to make you quit. I'll just tell you that right up front. There is not enough hypnosis in the world to make you quit. But that's not even the important part. Lou, the important thing is to remember that when you walk in that door, I'm your guy. I'm here for you. I'm not here for your wife, even though you love her and she only wants what's best for you. I'm not here for your boss. Right? I'm not here for your kids. And I know they love you and they want you to be really good. I'm here for you. So here's the deal. This is how this is going to go. You can choose. If you don't want to quit smoking, I'm not going to make you quit. But if they're busting your stones about coming here, you can sit in my chair for an hour and we'll just shoot the shit and you can come out and say it didn't work. We can call it a day. Right here, right now. No harm, no foul. Right? We can work on something completely different that you do want to fix. Heck, man, if you want to learn to enjoy smoking more, I'll help you do that. Because I'm your guy. I'm here for you. Right? I'm here for your reasons. Not your wife's reasons, not your kids' reasons, not your boss's reasons. I'm here for you. I'm thinking about it like that. If you were to want to quit smoking for your reasons, not your wife's reasons, yours, not your kids' reasons, yours, not your boss's reasons, yours. If you were to want to quit smoking today, why might you want to do that? Oh, shit. Well, smoking's a bit of an expensive habit, and we could probably use that money for other things like going camping or buying, going on a trip or something like that. And now that you mention it, I noticed I'm getting a little bit short of breath when I'm out with the kids. They want to go hiking and I want them to cough in and hack in and stuff like that. So, if I stop smoking, my lungs will get better. I have more energy. I play with the kids more. We go do more things. It saves some money. So, maybe just so I could be healthier and save some money and go do more stuff with your kids. Okay. So you'd like to save some money, be healthier, go do more with your kids. Yeah, that's right. So I'm curious, just so I understand you better. On a scale of 0 to 10, or 1 to 10, how much might you want to get healthier, save some money, and do more with your kids? Oh, dude, like 6, 7, easy. Wow, 6 or 7, easy. Huh. Why so much, Lou? Why didn't you rate that less? What? Why did you rate that so high? Well, because it's my health, guy. I mean, come on. I want to live longer. I want to do more with my kids. I want to save some money. It's a no-brainer. I just want to be healthier. Okay. So to move that forward, what's the next step we need to take? How soon do you want to get started? Well, let's do this. Is that your chair? Let's go. Right? Boom. What did you notice? Talk to me. Did I use the echo technique? He talked himself into it. Did I use the echo technique? I did. I partnered with him. I demonstrated faith in him. Right? How many of you found yourself kind of going along with that? You have to create an alliance with that person. And more often than not, the counterintuitive way to get there is you have to utterly convince the person across from you that you are on their side, you support their right not to do it, and you'll go so far as to help them do it more or not do it more if that's what's important to them. If you try to shortcut that step, if you try to just gloss over it or pay lip service to it, you got to feel this. When I was doing that whole I'm your guy thing, how sincere was I? How authentic was I? What did you feel? You got to do that. You got to go there. Because if you don't, they are highly sensitized to any form of manipulation. They're expecting any kind of reverse psychology trick, any NLP technique, any form of conversational, rhetorical persuasion or influence. They're looking for it. Their reticular activating system is hypersensitized to it. They're deep in an emotional state. And they are going to paint anything you do with a manipulative agenda until you satisfy that. We call this step restoring personal autonomy. You must do that if you want to be successful with the resistance removal protocol. None of the other steps matter. And the reason for that is, if you don't satisfy the first step, they won't buy in to the context and the process you're operating in. And they will parse and analyze everything you say to the nth degree. You can't have them do that. You've got to shift them into why they might want to do something. You have to attack their reason for wanting to do it, which makes them want it more. And then you have to take them baby step through that process. So again, one of the things I'm going to recommend you do, and you'll learn this backwards and forwards in the home study courses, in the live trainings. We do this over and over and over again in every conceivable context, from selling cars and real estate to counseling and therapy to dating. Okay? I've actually helped people get over exes in 5 minutes using this protocol. Right? I've cured tinnitus with it. I've taken away back pain, because the nervous system doesn't really make a big distinction between subjective and objective processes. Okay, so let's go ahead and go step through this. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to restore their sense of personal choice. In other words, we have to neutralize reactants. Okay? We have to give them back their sense of their freedom to choose. We have to convince them of that. We have to acknowledge their right to say no. If you go back and you watch the replay, you'll hear me say this to Lou over and over and over again. Not my reasons, not your wife's reasons, not your son's reasons, not your boss's reasons, your reasons. Why might you want to do that? That's the reason, that's the only reason they will respond to wholeheartedly. And that's what we want. That's what gets you what Chris Voss likes to say is the "that's right" moment. If you've ever read any of Chris's stuff, he'll talk about the difference between yes and "that's right." Yes is basically a disguised no. "That's right" is the "I'm going to do that." We want to get a "that's right" answer. So we have to have them generate their own reason. Then what are we going to do? We're going to apply the master echo formula. Right? What's the master echo formula? Well, I'm glad you asked. The master echo sequence is you're going to ask them a question. You'll learn about this in your home study course. You're going to pay attention to their response. You're going to validate that response. You're going to echo the words they just said. You're going to ask the next question. When you go back and review this video, when you come to your live training, you will see this process, this formula, over and over and over again. We're going to ask a question. We're going to pay attention to the response it generates. We're going to validate that response. We're going to echo the words that they used. We're going to ask our next question. The only variation you'll see is what we call a softener. A softener is another way of saying, here's why I am about to ask you, ask/tell you what I'm about to tell you. What does this look like? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Here's what a softener looks like. So I'm curious. I'm wondering, just so I understand you better, let me ask you this. Is it possible? When you were watching me talk to Lou, how many times did you hear me say, just so I understand you better? Or let me ask you this. Or I'm curious. Did you hear me say that at least, any one of these, at least once or twice? Maybe more than once. This is one of the big secrets to being good at influence. You have to learn to soften what you say. Softening to the untrained listener, the untrained observer, sounds like you're just making it weaker. You're not making the influence weaker. You're making it more palatable and less invasive. Right? So you soften the words, you ask your question, you pay attention to the response, you validate the response, you echo their words, you ask again. This sequence must be used in this formula. So I'm wondering, I'm curious, if you were to want to do X for your own reasons, not mine, not your wife's, not your boss's, not your kids, if you were to want to do X for your own reasons, I'm wondering, just so I understand you better, why might you want to do that? Why is this so important? Right? Oh, so you want to be healthy. I get it. So you want to be healthier, save some money, spend more time with your kids? Excellent. So I'm curious. So see, do you hear the softeners? On a scale of 0 to 10, or a scale of 1, I like 1 to 10, by the way, and I'll tell you why in a minute. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much might you want to save money, get healthier, spend more time with your kids? 6? Amazing. I'm wondering about something, though. Why so much? Why didn't you rate it less? Right? So if I just take the softener off here, why so much? Why didn't you rate it less? Right? Now, whatever they say in answer to this question, I'm going to agree with them. I'm going to find some way that I can signal that I'm on the same page. And then I'm going to echo their words. And I'm going to ask the next question. What's the next question? I'm curious. I'm wondering. What's the next step we need to take to move that forward? And how much might you want to, how soon do you want to get started? So let's walk through this. Step 1. Restore personal autonomy. Step 2, communicate to them that it's okay not to do it. And then ask, you soften, you echo their words, you ask your question. If you were to want to do X, why might you want to do that? Whatever they say, you agree, you echo their words, you ask the next question in the sequence. I'm curious, I'm wondering, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much might you want to do that? Now, ladies and gentlemen, of all the words in this formula you cannot change, this is the word you cannot change. Because if you change that word, might, you may not get the answer you want. Okay? Might is one of the most important words in this sequence. Okay? We'll talk about that more at Killer Influence Live. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much might you want to do that? They're going to give you a number from 1 to 10. Whatever it is, you validate, echo, ask again, or ask the next question. So I'm curious, I'm wondering, why so much? Why didn't you rate it less? Now, a lot of times, when you ask that question, you're going to see, you notice when I was role-playing with Louis, he went, what? The reason you get that response sometimes is because they're so used to people asking, why don't you want that more? They're so used to having to defend their rationale that they automatically assume you're going to do the same thing. And you are, but you're doing it in a different direction. You're not asking why they don't want it more. You're asking why they don't want it less. The moment they answer that question about why they don't want it less, their desire to do it more goes up. You're actually triggering their reactance in the opposite direction of where it was pointed initially. So now it's working for you towards your goal instead of away from you. Now, whatever comes out of their mouth, so I'm curious, what's the next step we need to take to move forward on that? How soon do you want to get started? Whatever they say next, you validate, You echo, you ask again, and you take that step and that step only. Because the most important thing in that moment, when they give you the next step, is you take that step in a very calm, certain, non-rushed, present, matter-of-fact way. Okay? Because you've shifted them into a very different way of seeing the world. They see you as an ally. If they see you like lunging for it, like when you're trying to land a fish for the first time and you pull the hook out of its mouth, they'll pull back and they'll start analyzing what you just did, and they'll lapse. There's a chance they could lapse back into, oh, fuck, I don't want to do this, right? So you're in a very fragile state. It's going to get stronger as you get deeper and deeper into the process they've given you. But you have to gentle them through that. No blips on the radar. Okay? Questions about what you saw? Are you guys like tranced out or what? All right. That's the resistance removal formula. Okay. Rerunning it in my head. All right. Well, let's do this. Let me run through our last call, and then I will run you guys through. We'll do a group version of resistance removal. So you're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to be doing like 25 or 150 of you at the same freaking time, right? Depending on what platform you're running. So do the best you can to follow along. But let's just go over, for those of you who are on the fence, when would now be a good time to click those links, right? And grab your Black Friday super package. So once again, this is a Secrets of Human Influence home study course, right? $2,497 value. Defense Against the Dark Arts home study course, the #1 NLP training program in the world. $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Renegade Reframing home study program, $1,997 value. We're going to give you that for free. You're going to get the Charisma Conversion home study course, $1,997 value. The 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, $1,597 value, absolutely free. You're going to get the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis course, $997. We're going to give that to you free. And you're going to get that 5-day VIP super ticket to any killer influence training of your choice. Total value on this is $14,232. Normally, our webinar prices are $997. We're going to take an extra $200 off because it's Black Friday and we want you to have this. We want you in those trainings so you can move the needle in your life. www.killerinfluence.com/go. It's www.killerinfluence.com/go. Working this into a sales process, very, very simple. Okay. So let's all assume for a moment that you're on a webinar. Okay. Now this is the interactive portion of tonight's training. Okay. So my job here isn't to convince you to purchase our webinar package, even though it's the best deal we've ever done. Right. Everything in it is perfectly worth it at full price if that's what you want to do. And if you don't want to buy it, if you don't want to grab it, I'm not going to try and make you grab it. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to show you how this can change your life. And if you don't want it, I'm not married to it, right? So it doesn't really matter to me beyond a certain level. My job here is to do one thing and one thing only. It's to get you to decide. You want it or you don't. It's going to change your life and make all the difference in your world, or you want to stay the same. And that's okay. That's your choice, right? I'm not here to change that choice. My job is to just help you make the choice. Yes or no? Do you want to change? Or do you want to stay the same? Do you want to continue to be a victim? Or do you want the power and the freedom to write your own ticket in this world? It's your choice. I'm not going to sit here poke the bear at you one way or another, right? You know if this is right for you. You know if this will make all the differences for you. You know, based on working with me and the material that we put out, the quality and the power of what we do. You know if you deserve to have this or not. It's not about me. It's about you. And I'm here to help you make that choice one way or the other. If you don't want it, no harm, no foul. You don't need to click that link. But I am curious. I am wondering if you were to want to take that leap, if you were to want to make a change in your life for all the right reasons, the reasons that resonate most powerfully with you, not because I say so, right? Not because I have all the studies and all the science and all the backup. That's not important. What's important is about you, what you feel is right for you, and how this would make a change, if it would make a change for you. Why am I, and if that were true, I'm curious, I'm wondering, if you were to want to grab this offer and become a full, deeper member and get access to all the technologies and the secrets that we had to share with you, for your reasons, not mine. I'm not a mind reader, although some people think I play one on television, right? But your reasons, not your mom's reasons, not your wife's reasons, your boss's reasons, whoever is the string puller in your life, the shot caller in your life, not their reasons, yours. If you were to want to do that, I'm curious, why might you want to do it? Just type it in the chat. Why might you want to do that? Just type your answers in the chat. I'll wait. Lee says to have control of my life. Okay, perfect. That's absolutely honorable. I love that. Anybody else? And by the way, you don't have to write it in the chat. If you want to keep it private, just write it on a piece of paper in front of you. But I want you to look at it. I want you to think about it. And as you think about having that control, you think about all the different ways that this could make a difference in your life, the way you've described it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much might you want to do that? How much might you want that? Now, I will ask you to type that number in the chat. There is not a number. It means it's too high. It's really how the people I meet during my demos. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much might you want that? 10, Richard says. Oh, wow. Anybody else? Nobody's going to play, huh? All right, well, that's fine. But you all know that number in your mind. True, not true. So my question for you is this. Why do you want that so much? Why didn't you rate it less? And think about it. Why didn't you rate that less? Why do you want that so much? Very good. So I'm curious, how soon do you want to get started? What's the next step we need to take to move your life forward the way you want? Just click the link. Do it now before I log off so you get all the goodies. Doesn't that just make sense? Now, all fun and games aside, as you were stepping through this process, what happened to your desire to take the next step? When I said on a scale of 1 to 10, how much might you want to do that? And a number popped up. And then I said, why so much? Why didn't you rate that less? Why do you want that so much? What happened to your desire? Be honest, tell me. Decision was not as harsh. See that? It increased. You wanted to do it more. It escalated. That's the magic of redirected reactance. The most powerful way to get anybody to do the exact thing they just told you they did not want to do is to have them generate their very own reason for why they might want to do it. That's made the decision more comfortable. Yes. And once we have that ball rolling, we just snowball it. We can just continue to amplify it and amplify until it's just a no-brainer, right? And if you want that, the ability to do that, if Vader says it worked, I wanted it more. Absolutely. Did we lie, cheat, steal, or manipulate people in any way, shape, or form during that process? Or did we simply find out why they want what they wanted and show them how to get it? And Jose is saying, can you send me a link in my email? I can give you the link right here, brother. Just click it and get it done. Right? This is one piece of the whole system, right? It's a super powerful piece. And if you here's the interesting part about this particular protocol. If you follow the fundamental stuff in Secrets of Human Influence, you'll almost never need to use this. But for those moments when you're dealing with a recalcitrant teenager, a highly emotional, highly strung preteen, people who are dealing with substance abuse issues, people who have occupational defiant disorder, things of that nature, this is a lifesaver, right? But remember, the key to making it happen, the key to mastering it, follow the formula, and you have to convince that person that you're on their side. It has to be sincere. It has to be authentic. And if you can do that, they'll tell you exactly what you need to do and say to get them to do the very thing they just told you they weren't going to do. And then it gets deeper. Okay? So that's all I got for you tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Trust me, there's way more in your courses when you start unlocking and unpacking those courses. By all means, if you have questions, call that number. Give us a call. We're here to help. We're here to support you. Show up at our next mastermind. You'll get a 3-month trial, and we will help you hone those skills and get you on the fast track to the best life humanly possible. All right. If you had a good time, if you learned a lot, please like and share this video. Right. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night, my friends. I'll see you all on the other side. Click those links, and let's get to training. God bless.